Next, we'll move to Section 3, Special Matters. Section A, Presentation Growth Data by the City Manager.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. Welcome everybody this evening. I'll be super brief and answer whatever questions you may or may not have. And Anna, if you'll help me, Anna's over there on the side there to flip the slides. So Anna, if you flip the slide. So the first slide is obviously we start out with the prime topic of the evening, which is the temporary suspension on annexations. I did speak with a number of our staff and various other folks, and obviously from the packets that were disseminated on Wednesday, my office is recommending the commission to vote against the suspension of residential annexations and rezonings. And I'll, in this presentation, provide some of the backup for that recommendation. There's a few reasons that I wanted to highlight. One is I think really that the policy is bad for our economic development efforts. While there is a considerable amount of growth, I think that the feedback that we have from folks that we work with, the folks that we recruit with folks, whether it's industry or commercial type of stuff, they look for movement and advancement of development issues and opposed to growth. Is not one that helps us recruit industry or more jobs or commercial or industry to the city. The next, and perhaps I use the word legal too loosely, which maybe I'm due some criticism there. But I think the intent of the resolution, while I think everybody understands it, I think at the end of the day, it won't have the effect, and that's kind of point 3 that everybody wants from it. Whether it's a moratorium, which I do think has some legal issues. Ours is a suspension. I know, and Grant will point that out to you very quickly. Ours is a suspension, not a moratorium, hence the legal, if we're going to split legal hairs, that's where we come into issues on the moratorium. But moratorium, suspension, time spans, I think at the end of the day, what this does is it sets bad precedent for whatever side of the equation you're on. If you're in the development sector, you're going to be upset because you see an area for capital expansion and the natural economy to move forward. And if you're an opponent of growth, what you see, I think you will walk out with the anticipation that growth is controlled. There's going to be time to do things. But I think in reality, that doesn't happen. I think in reality, there's a number of things that go into growth that aren't controlled here at City Hall. Schools is one, roads is one. So a number of other things that goes into how we manage growth, and a simple suspension from the city would not be that. And the big one that I didn't mention is water. Water is a significant issue that we can talk about water all night. But there's a number of things that are associated with water that's outside of the city's control. So later on in the presentation, I'll touch on that, and I'll touch on how far I think we can get with water. So we'll revisit that as well too. So the next thing I hope that the presentation does is, at least from a city manager perspective, obviously we work with other agencies and we work with a number of people here in the city who are professionals, who put pride into their work and their recommendations. A lot of times, most of the time you've seen those recommendations from the Planning and Zoning Department that favor annexations for one reason or another. So what I hope the takeaway is whether the folks agree about planning or the issue of growth. What they'll see is that, at least from a planning side, your city staff has done everything we can to provide good policy and to manage the growth as best as possible. So with that, I'll jump into the growth data. So Anna, if you flip the slide. So the first thing I want to say out of the box is, and a PUD, and perhaps some of this is repetitive, a PUD is not a development order. A planned unit development, so I'm going to use the acronym, is not a development order. So if we approve Whispering Hills and that approved 1,700 homes, that approved X number of acres to change from rural protection area in the county to a zone PUD in the city, that did not give carte blanche development approval to that development. A PUD is really a planning tool. So that's another reason you don't want to stop annexations, because if you stop annexations, you stop planning. So when we put all these little bubbles up on the map, which I provided up front, all those are planned units. All those give different agencies ways to plan, give us avenues to plan for the future, what we're going to need to bring. And the magic question is how fast that's going to come. So I talk on that too. So the biggest thing I can stress is a PUD is not a planned, is not an order. It's not a development order. It doesn't entitle a developer to build homes. It references back to there's two paragraphs in particular that I put in there. The transportation paragraph, you probably can't read it, and the level of service paragraph, you probably can't read that either. But let me tell you what on the left, you see, hopefully you see paragraph, it's a paragraph A, I can't read the number myself. I think it's paragraph 6. It's transportation. That's all the general language we put in there. The highlighted paragraphs, and there's several paragraphs in that portion of a PUD, it basically says before you build, you have to get approvals from other governmental agencies. So you have to go to the county, you have to go to the state, you have to get other governmental approvals. And most of our PUDs, as you'll see on the map, are not connected to Leesburg roads. They're connected to urban collectors or state or county roads. Internally, those roads, neighborhood roads, would be city roads. So our PUD spell that out. So when developers receive that signed PUD or that approved PUD, right in that PUD, we're saying you can't develop. You still have to go talk to other agencies so that we can plan even better for roads. And then the level of service paragraph is super important, because what that paragraph does, and I highlighted it, you can't read it, but if you pull up any of our PUDs, which you can easily get online, you can read it. So I will paraphrase. What that says is, this is not a development order. This does not give you the right to build. You have to go through a system which is spelled out in Chapter 25, Article 9 of the city's Code of Ordinances. It's in the zoning section, and it's called concurrency. And that section of code talks about all the things that have to be done to move from PUD to development order. So I wanted to point that out. So to hopefully dispel any misnotions there are about PUDs, PUDs are not a development order. They're a planning tool. Anna, next slide. So next, I wanted to show approved units. And when I did this slide, I left out Northwest Leesburg, but Northwest Leesburg's on the map. My personal opinion is that probably, while we've gotten a lot of complaints about Northwest, and when I refer to Northwest Leesburg, kind of the 441 Silver Lake corridor is Northwest. Treasure Trove, Liberty Park, those subdivisions, Northwest. I popped up this map. So just to kind of the final approved units, 39,803 approved residential units. Of those units, 14,185 are the villages. So about 35% of the PUDs are the villages. 25,638 units, about 64% are non-villages. And then I speculate too, just from conversation, from editorials, from different articles, that some of the major concern is that Leesburg annexed the RPZs or RPAs, Rural Protection Areas of the counties. So let me talk about that briefly. And the city did this in 2 areas. And the city did this in 2 areas with the approval and consent of the county. Now, we did that back in 2013 under basically 3 agreements. The first one was the 2013 ISBA agreement, which is the Inter-Service Boundary Agreement. And what this map shows you is a couple of things. If you can see, the light green is the area of Leesburg's, what we refer to ISBA, Inter-Service Boundary Agreement. The light blue is Howie. The light orange, if you will, is Mascot, and the light yellow is Groveland. So kind of in that, if you will, 4 areas where all the cities meet right there around Dewey Robbins and 27. Those are how all the ISBAs interconnect. Those ISBAs were approved by the county in 2023. And in that 2023 document, the non-annexation, non-contiguous annexations was contemplated, but it spec'd out different various levels of what you can and what you can't annex with or without the county's approval. And then exhibits were provided in that spec'd out areas where the county pre-approved non-contiguous annexations and where the county disagreed with non-contiguous annexations. Um, the light area represents the inclusive ISBA areas. The dark areas represent what has been annexed, and that's the difference. The black line, if you will, on there, that is the Rural Protect RPA, that is the Yulaha Apopka RPA. So I thought an important number to put in there was 4,300 units. So in that area, the city did annex into the RPA. We did annex into the approved area with the county's understanding in 2013. That understanding was made in 2013. The annexation happened afterwards. So about 30, about 11% of the approved PUDs is from that RPA. We also took in some property outside of an RPA, outside of our ISBA, in Orange Bend. Orange Bend is a kind of very northwest portion of the city. I didn't include that map. But that area, we went back to the county in 2014-ish, and we got approval from the county to annex in the Esmeralda RPA, and the county approved that annexation as well. So everywhere we've annexed in an RPA, we've had county approval. The second thing that we did, though, that I think is important to point out with the ISBAs, and I'm in the middle bullet point there, is in 2014, Lake and Leesburg, and Lake didn't do this with all the cities, maybe some of them, but specifically with Leesburg, they gave us a carte blanche annexation to anywhere inside our ISBA. And we did that in exchange for services. So it was in exchange for providing fire services. The cities were, Leesburg was permitted to annex anywhere in the box. And we did that in the 2013-14 timeframe. Those annexations did come later. I got another graph that kind of talks to you about that, because obviously in that timeframe, the economic and political climate was significantly different in 2013 than it is now. But so those issues were reviewed, were talked about, were contemplated. So Leesburg's not out here just annexing all stuff like a cowboy. I know you guys don't want to hear that. So next slide, please. So if I've heard it once, I've heard it a million times. Leesburg hasn't planned. We have this crazy growth. We haven't done anything. I will tell you that that's untrue. So here are 10 bullet points that I've brought up that depicts what the city has done to try to manage all the growth that has been put upon us, at least in paper form and planning form. So the first thing is, and the first two really I would think are major. How have we dealt with sewer and how have we dealt with water? So the first way is we have done plant expansions at the Turnpike plant. Several years ago, the Turnpike plant only handled 3 MGD. MGD is million gallons a day. So we process a certain amount of wastewater every day. Of 3 MGD, I think we're hanging out now around 2.5 to 2.75 MGD. The biggest taker of our capacity at this stage is the villages. We contracted with the villages and we sold them a capacity in our plant several years ago, probably back in the 17, 18 timeframe. We sold the villages 3 MGD of capacity back when the plant was rated at 3 and we only had 1 in use. So we oversold capacity, but we immediately started putting on an expansion to the plant. So we went from the 3 to the 4.5. At that time frame, we kind of thought about whether or not we needed to expand the Turnpike plant more. And at that time frame, which was about 2017, 2018, we did not expand the plant because obviously we didn't see the volume of the PUDs and the volume of requests that would come. But since we have changed that tune and we have gone back now to expand the plant a second time. So effective June of 25, June of this year, that was our $40 million Turnpike expansion plant project. that will handle a significant amount of capacity. All the capacity of 40,000 units? Absolutely not. To plan for 40,000 units to grow in a short period of time, though, I would suggest is unreasonable. I have some data that I'll show you about that as well. So really, we've got effective in June, we have 1.8 MGD of capacity in the sewer plant at Turnpike. Northwest will flow into Canal. Canal, we have capacity for that growth, and we're also in the process of some early planning where we're going to spend some state grant revenues to do some things to expand the Canal plant, which is to become, which is to be coming here in the future. Excuse me. So if you break the math down, and I've highlighted some numbers on that chart because this is where we can argue about, well, that's too high, that's too low, it's too fast, that's too quick. And it's really anybody's guess. But really what we try to do here in Leesburg is, especially on the budget side, which I think in the past decade we've gotten really adept at, is we budget our expenses extremely conservatively, and we budget our revenues extremely conservatively. We'll even, and I've actually been ridiculed from commissioners in the past, I think in a nice way, but projecting our revenues too small, which eliminates expenditures. So we really like to miss on the revenue side low, and we like to miss on the expenditure side even lower. And I think what we see in government is some of the inverse of that. We'll overstate revenues to squeeze in special projects. But so in any case, back to these growth numbers, the numbers I have highlighted are really dictated on how much are we using. And those numbers vary. So for planning purposes, we estimate that the typical household uses 250 gallons a month. So 250 gallons of wastewater out and 250 gallons a day of wastewater in for the single family residents. And some places were high and some places were low. And why I say that number's a little bit of a bubble is because some of the newer PUDs have different requirements in it for yard irrigation. We've had different issues with reuse, and I'm trying to be super brief here. So the 250 number I think is probably a little high, but in some places it's low. But overall, you know, we could argue about what that number should look like. But I think 250 is a good budget. So if you divide the 250 into the units that we can do, so 250 divided by the capacity number, we got about 7,200 units of capacity that can go into the Turnpike plant. If you divide that by what we're doing, not including the villages, I'll talk about that at another time, but not including the villages because the villages is basically standalone. We've been getting about 30. Our growth average has been 33 units a month. So divide that by 33. Now that 33, and I'm going to talk about that number a little bit later, so I'll save that. But so that's the formulaic approach. So if you put all those numbers together, roughly you have about 18 years of sewer capacity if you grow at 33 units a month and if you discharge 250 gallons a month. So that's the number. And it's arguable either way, high or low, but I think it's a good planning number. Same thing on the water side. So we have a consumptive use permit. We have several consumptive use permits, but we kind of have two standalone operations. So we have Plantation. So for those of you who may live in Plantation, you all have basically your own water system that the city of Leesburg manages. You have your own consumptive use permit. You are outside the 9 MGD, so 9 million gallons a day that we talk about all the time. You guys are pretty much set. In fact, the report that Al Purvis just received, you guys were part of that. Things are going well in Plantation as far as consumption and delivery and all that. So what's left for the rest of the city is the 9 MGD. So how much of the 9 MGD is left? So our average flow is 7 MGD. So when we throw these numbers out at you, remember this is a 12-month average from St. John's Water Management District. So so that number can break high and you can go low, but as long as the end of the year you're at your average, you've operated within your allowable take from the aquifer. Ours is 7 MGD, and we really haven't exceeded that greatly, and you know that's about where we've been hanging here lately. So again, same math: 250 gallons a day divided by the 2 MGD, that's 8,000 units, divide that by 33. So if we grow at that 33 unit a month, we really have enough water for, I can't read my number up there. It's like another 20 some years. So those are way out numbers. But the important number, and really when it comes down to growth, and I'm going to leave it at this because the water discussion is extremely as complex as the one we're about to have, and it's another facet of that. But on the water side of the equation, the city of Leesburg, I think what folks need to know is two things. The city of Leesburg staff, along with our contract engineers, Dewberry, went to the district last year to increase our CUP from 9 MGD to 15 MGD. We used all sorts of documentation, that map in front of you, the different growth stuff. And long story short, the district told us no. They would not expand our CUP because we did not demonstrate the need. That was their response. Agree with it or don't agree with it, that's what the district said. The second thing the district said was, come back to us in A, when you've hit your capacity, or B, in 2030, when our CUP expires. So that's why I put that date out there, because I think probably from 2025 to 2030, we're gonna see and experience a lot of different things that affect growth. That's really gonna come from the district water, and where I think growth is really more of a water issue more than anything else. So on point one and point two, my point here is to demonstrate the city of Leesburg has successfully, I think, got us to 2030, 2035 timeframe. I think a decade of water and sewer planning is pretty reasonable. We've done that with limited bond issues, and we've done that without increasing significantly your water and sewer rates. And we're still remain one of the highest quality providers from a weight standpoint, from a delivery standpoint in that municipal service. The next thing that we did is we did an agreement with NVR Homes. So NVR Homes is spec'd out because Barkey, which is Blue Cedar is actually the furthest north major PUD, which is the one that's now under construction. But Barkey is the next big one. So NVR Homes was the developer of the Barkey subdivision, and we entered into a bypass sewer agreement with them. So ostensibly what that means is NVR Homes is responsible for building the sewer interceptor that will be built up 27 across the Duke transmission easement, then up 33 and to the Turnpike plant. So that is the major interceptor that will serve pretty much all of the subdivisions and PUDs that are developed in South Leesburg off of US 27. On the 33 side, those developers then would be required to build a trunk line up 33 to connect in to where this interceptor would intersect them, which is roughly about the intersection, the Okahumpka intersection for 470, 33, 48 area is about where the 33 would connect in. So the 1, 2, and 3 demonstrate that we have our water and sewer issues spec'd out. And up in the northwest side of the community, kind of the same issues with pioneering agreements and whatnot. We've been able to secure paths to get water out and collect sewer in. Gas services agreement. One of the things that Leesburg is unique about is that we do require that subdivisions that go into Leesburg are gas reliant for appliances. We've got all our gas service agreements in for that. The next issue, the modifications that we've done for PUZ, for landscaping, for lighting, for different types of things, for architectural structures. I would argue that our PUDs are very comprehensive on all the things they do. So before you start saying Leesburg doesn't plan correctly, I would encourage you to read our PUDs, because I think what you'll find is that they're more comprehensive than the county PUDs. And I would point to look at the Drake PUD of the county, and I would then have you compare the Drake PUD of the county to Mount Dora North and South to our typical PUD of the county. And what I think you see is you see the county matriculating in PUD language closer to Leesburg. We also updated our comprehensive plan this year, which I think is significant. And one of the things we did in the comprehensive plan is we did protect Sunnyside. One of the primary reasons, at least I think we protected Sunnyside, is because Sunnyside is probably one of the areas in Leesburg that is the least connected. Most every subdivision you see in Leesburg, probably with the major intersection PUD of Tierra Oaks, is in one fashion or another connected to a major collector of the county. That's not saying we don't have county road impacts, but that's saying that we are connected to major collectors of the county, 48, 33, 441, those type of roads for the very most part. We've done a tremendous amount of infill projects, and we've really, and I think this probably goes unspoken. So we've heard that municipalities need to look at other tools in the toolbox to encourage development. I will tell you, we've done that. We've done that through the home grant program, where we've encouraged redevelopment in blighted areas, and we've given money. We've did the FSL program has also done that. And I would also point at the Lee School subdivision. The Lee School was a blighted area in the city, and we've done a number of things to try to encourage a major high density PUD in infill areas. So when we have opportunities to look at infill, I would argue that we're taking those opportunities. In that answer, I talked about the 7 and 8. Electric service, I think, is actually an interesting topic to talk about, because I would argue that most of our electric, as you know, we're an electric provider. Most of our electric service extensions have been in areas not in Leesburg. They've been more in the Fruitland Park area, 466 corridor, in that area. We are starting some electric extensions over there to the Silver Lake area, but I would say even half of those PUDs are in Duke territory. Whereas if you go to this map on the south, most of the PUDs in that area is SECO territory. So our electric utility, I think, has managed growth well. We will be talking about the electric utility ad nauseum, I think, this budget fiscal year, but I see that more of the issues with the electric utility is associated with inflation and cost of fuel versus growth. So I would really say that in the electric department, while growth is keeping us busy up in the Fruitland Park area, on the Silver Lake area, I would argue that I lose sleep at night over fuel issues and inflation before growth, because I think the electric utility's done a really good job managing growth. And then lastly, I would point to this fiscal year's budget. This fiscal year budget, we brought in $3 million new dollars. I'll talk about that in a little more detail on the coming slides. But we've spent that new growth income on really on two major things: on expansion of public safety services and keeping your electric rates down. So that's a snapshot of Leesburg's growth plan. Anna, next slide. I don't, obviously you can't talk about growth without roads. And you know, I think
We will be respectful of whoever's speaking
difficult
tonight.
one,
Thank you.
because roads are multi-jurisdictional. And so that's where communication with the county and probably some of the areas that, if we're going to talk about growth, how do we tackle these type of things? But you see two maps up there. The one on the right is the long range plan, and the one on the left is the short range plan from the MPO, which the county and the city of Leesburg is a part of. And what you see on there is mostly improvements in South Lake. The one on the right is really the best. Because what you see is kind of a little bit of a red cross there, which is the famous Dixie intersection, which is the one that continues to be a failing intersection. It's probably been a failing intersection since it's been built. And then, of course, the 441 widening project, which has been on the county books for a long time. And the city intervened in that. And we were actually the ones who stopped that expansioning project when FDOT was ready to do it. And now it's been back on the books, but continually, it makes the 5-year plan, but it's the one street that continually gets pushed back. I think it's really important at this time to kind of note that, unfortunately, that roads for most government entities is unfortunately one that is planned in arrears because the agency it requires impact fees to get it. So if you take a look at Lake County, we used to have 4 transportation districts, the county and the city, and then the county plans and spends the money accordingly. But impact fees in the past were coordinated over 5 districts with 5 different levels of impact fees. When the county increased the impact fees, which I think was a very good move, all the districts were equaled up in terms of what they pay, except for the villages, which the county created its own impact fee. And I think that also was an interesting move, and I also think the correct one. Probably not a popular statement, but really the villages, I'm not going to stand before you and say the villages doesn't have an impact on our roads. It certainly does. But I think what the, okay, I'll wait for everybody to stop. But I think what really, as transportation planners, we look at is where's the major impact. And what that map on the right reflects is that the village's primary impact is on the turnpike, the major collector, because pretty much every transportation engineer that works with the villages multimodal form of transportation with their carts does take an impact off of our roads. That doesn't mean no impact. That means they take an impact off of our road. And most governmental agencies have seen that impact, and the county carving the villages out and giving them their own special impact fee reflects that. Next slide. The next thing I will say is, a lot of conversation that we've had in various PUDs that we've reviewed is the Okahumpka intersection, and that is actually on the county's plan now to improve. And so when we spoke with county staff, I think they talked 26, 27 timeframe for those intersection improvements to be made. These are the plans. So when we've talked to county staff, that's the information we've got. Next slide. The next I wanted to talk about too is growth. So there's been a lot of talk, I think, countywide about who's growing the most, where is it happening, what's it occurring. So how fast our city's growing, and what I would say is individually we're growing slower than the county. Collectively, the cities are growing faster than the county. So let me visit some numbers now and talk to you about that phenomenon. Because growth is not isolated in Lake County to the unincorporated or to the incorporated areas, or henceforth I'll call it the cities. Growth is happening throughout Lake County. So what this chart shows you, and what I did is I went back 10 years. And so what I think the best measure of growth is actual tax growth for the governmental entity, right? What is growth based on taxable value for that jurisdiction? So I measured it back all the way to 2015. So that's about a decade, the last 10 years of growth. And what you see was about 10 years ago, I can't read those numbers, we were hanging out around 40% of the county. Cities now are about 57% of the county. Anna, next slide, if you will. The data from this slide came from from Lake County Board of Education. The reason it came from Lake County Board of Education is the Board of Education is extremely interested in everybody's educational impact fees. So when you pay an impact fee in Leesburg, I'd say the average impact fee right now for the typical 1,500 square foot home runs about $15,000. Of that impact fee, about $9,000 of it goes to the school boards. So the school boards are the lion's share of the impact fees. And that's probably pretty typical for every political subdivision, also known as a county, in the state. So they have a vested interest in ensuring and double and cross-checking how much impact fee money they've collected and where it's collected. So what do is they go back to the county and as well as the unincorporated building departments to measure what they're collecting versus what the building permits have been issued. So I put together a chart which is that one right there. That chart measures two things. On the left side of the column, it measures annual permits issued, and the bars represents permit issues. So what you see is Lake County is, for the last 3 years has run somewhere between 1,500. Well, their low is 1,300, their high is 2,000. Um, and then Leesburg. So Leesburg, we pop in, but I did make an exception because the common debate seems to be all growth is good, except, villages included. So we don't count the villages. So why is Leesburg jumping ahead in this growth debate? It's completely related to the village's development. The villages Anna, where'd you go? Leesburg growth is completely related to the building permits that were issued in the villages. So if you include that over the past, the village has built about 3,200 units in the last year. So I put up another chart, which brings that number down. And I talked about that a little bit. So I really think with the villages, I'm not saying we can't ignore that growth, but we also got to measure it with what the economy is. And I think that the difference with the villages and typical growth is the villages has a captured market of a specific demographic. That's typically a higher income person, that's typically buying a higher value. They typically have more cash. And so they typically work the way you want to see government work. They have cash on hand. So they typically go out and start putting infrastructure in because they know they control what growth is coming in behind them. In government, we don't have that option. Unfortunately, in government, what you see is what we see. And the extreme example is the subdivision that's half done and never gets built. So that's what we deal with. So on a county level, on an unincorporated level, we deal with speculation. And what's fueling the fire, in my opinion, of all these PUDs is the speculation that the bubble of growth coming up from Orlando through Claremont, through Groveland, who, if we can get the slides back up, I'll show you, are still the fastest growers in the county, that growth is now upon us, hence the number of PUDs we have. So if you take the villages out of our chart and you go over to the next big circle where I say typical growth, that shows you that that the city of Leesburg is approving less than 500 units a year. And so now you get to the chart. On the left, we've got units per year, and then the red line represents average units a month. So that average, if you look at that non-villages growth number, is 33 units. So that's kind of the big question I pose is, when does that 33 unit number start looking like a village number, right? So the village's number was like 250 units a month or 300 units a month. They absolutely cranked out houses. I would argue, however, that that's atypical growth for Leesburg. Our history in our fastest data years, maybe we got to 88, 90 units for a 3-month period, and then we've fallen off. That's been our history since I've been here, and our history probably even slower than that before my arrival for the last decade. But for the last decade, it's 33. So if you ask me, where do I see that number going in the future? Maybe we sustain 50 to 75. And if you take that number and you plug it into the equation up front, that number still gets us to 2030. So I'll respond back to you. What we have on the books versus what we're planning is planned through 2035. So I think that's an important chart. The next chart, Anna, flip it, is I'm going to shift this number. And this is a crazy chart. I apologize. And I'm trying to make a complex number and put it into a snapshot picture. So it's a little bit more understandable. So once a building permit's been issued, a house has been built, and somebody moves in it, now the government starts collecting revenue on that. And how do we measure that? Easily, we measure it by what the total taxable value growth is from year to year. So what this chart shows you is a decade of annual growth. I put a caveat in it, and I'll explain it. For every municipal corporation and Lake County in Lake County for the past decade, as long as your total taxable value was over $1 billion. The reason I put that caveat in there is because we have a couple of really super fast growers in Astatula, and I want to say it's Umatilla, but don't hold me to that. I know it's Astatula for sure. Astatula's been growing at like 50, 75% a year, but they're still a pretty small number. So when you took their numbers and you put this into the chart, it skewed it so bad that you couldn't read anything else. So I took out the $1 billion cities. If you weren't $1 billion tax assessed value city, I took those out. So basically, but what the picture it paints though is probably the bigger growers, where most of the growth is that we're all feeling. I think we would all agree that at this point, we're not feeling Astatula growth, but in this chart, it would not have reflected the point, so I took it out. So what do we see? And what we see is really in the middle of all this, it looks like a hurricane preparedness chart, right? But in the middle of all of that there's a black line, and that represents the county, because the county is their assessed value is really reflective of all the cities combined. And what you see of the county from 2015 to 2024 is really a steady growth that probably in 2015, and 2015 is a really significant number because 2015 is really when the economy started growing again after the recession of 2008 to 2010. So from 2008 to 2010, assessed values dropped like a rock. You know, across the state of Florida, we saw 30% decreases. And by 2013, 2014, we started coming out of it. And that's probably an important thought, I would think, too, for the ISBAs, because that's when those ISBAs were made, but they were still made. And the city still had those approvals to do what the future brought on. But so if you look at who were the fast growers in 2015, up in the chart, I wrote those out: Groveland, Claremont, Mineola, and Lady Lake. Interestingly enough, Lady Lake, I would argue that was Village's growth, because what you see on the chart is Lady Lake stabilized. I'm going to come back to Lady Lake. I'm going to come back to Claremont in a second too. And the slow growers, the number one slow grower in Lake County in 2015 was Leesburg. I want to say 2015, that was a 3% increase. That was actually the city's first positive increase in taxable value since 2008. Don't hold me to that. I have to go back and look at the data, but that was a significant year because that was when we saw first growth coming out of the recession. And you see our red line slowly grow. So now let's fast forward through the chart because you can copy everything. The one big yellow blip in there, and I cut that off, that represents Fruitland Park. In 2017, that was when the Villages of Fruitland Park built out. I believe that was about 2,500 units. That peaked out, that Fruitland Park. Actually, they grew 80% that year, but you see the Fruitland Park number fall off. So who are the high growers in Leesburg? I'm sorry, in the county in 2024, which is these past numbers. By the way, all these numbers come from the property appraiser's office. So the fast growers, Leesburg with the Villages, Mineola, Groveland, Claremont. So really, but for the Villages, the past 10 years have remained the same. I would suggest to you that most of the growth that has occurred has been in South Lake versus Leesburg, less the Villages. And so then again, if we split the Villages out of our growth equation, I will capitulate that this is an estimate that's probably open for discussion, but that dotted red line there on the end, that represents an extrapolation of taking the Villages taxable value out of our 23 and 24 rolls, which is about 750 million. This year in 2024, the Leesburg's taxable value was about 3.3 billion. It was up almost $1 billion in 1 year. Most of that was accountable to the Villages, and you can do the math on that. 3,200 units at about 400,000 taxable values a year. That's where you get those numbers. You look up the sales numbers, and so these numbers aren't coming. You know, there's some validity behind these numbers, and so if you take that out, where you see Leesburg is as where that dot bottoms out. So then, who were the slow growers in Leesburg or in the county would be Eustis, Mount Dora, Lady Lake, and Leesburg without the villages. So I think some of the issues that we see here in growth are the massive PUDs that the city has improved. Again, not a development order, and growth all around us. So I don't think you can singularly set back and get in an intersection at the Dixie Avenue and say, that's because of all the Leesburg PUDs on the books. I don't think you can sit at the Okahonka intersection and say, that's because of all the books, all the homes on the village, on the city's books. The transportation is a collective network. Leesburg has had a history of being a mecca of employment, of commerce, and of not just residential growth in Leesburg. And to the success of Groveland, I don't think you can underscore the success that the Feet Park, that the county worked with Groveland has had on our economy. And while you can't argue that success and its taxable value increase in the job creation and the services economy that's been created, you can't argue as well that that traffic has had an impact on our roads. So it's not just residential growth, it's all growth in Lake that affects our roads. And this is the last slide. And that's it. So what I wanted to write down is kind of a perception that city growth is hurting the counties, where that city growth is burdening county roads and county services. So of course, I would argue that, and frankly, I would argue the inverse. I would argue that the cities, our tax dollars subsidize county services. So I think, how can you prove that? So here's how you do that. Remember, everybody in the county, and I'm going to use rough numbers. Everybody in the county pays a property tax to the county. They have a little over 5 mil general fund ad valorem tax that they levy. They also levy some MSTUs, and they also, but for general fund purposes, they levy a little over 5 mil property tax. Everybody in Lake County pays that. Whether you live in an incorporated area or an unincorporated area, you pay the county property ad valorem tax. Now, if you live in an unincorporated area, you don't pay a municipal property tax. You may pay an MSTU. An MSTU is a municipal service taxing unit. Frank, did you get it? MSTU, or sometimes they use Frank MSBU, but MSTU for this purpose. So in any case, so you may or may not pay an MSTU. So where do these services go? So first, this data came from the fiscal year 25 budget of the county. And here's what I try to break down. Our population is 33,344. That's pretty much the latest number. Lake County's population from the county budget is 433,331. Divide the two, Leesburg is 7.69% of the county. So I'm going to jump down to the big chart, and I'm just going to tell you the numbers. Collectively, the cities, all the cities collectively pay 57% of the county's ad valorem taxes. Okay, 57% of the ad valorem taxes. The county's general fund budget is $316 million. The $316 million in the county is paid for basically two ways: property taxes and all other taxes. All other taxes is a real long list, but it includes stuff like shared revenues that like the city gets from the state. It includes fines and forfeitures and everything else. So of that budget, I think their number, and it's up in there, I can't read it, but it's roughly 316, about 206 million of the 316 comes from property taxes. So that means of the $206 million the county brings in, 57% of that comes from the cities. You can't deny that. The next thing is, maybe it's arguable, but in a fair proration, if the population of the unincorporated areas is 54%, so add up all the city populations divided by the populations, all that data was given in the county's fiscal year 25 budget. The cities cooperatively or totally make up 50% of all other general fund revenue for the county. If you massage those numbers together, The cities make up 56% of the county's budget. So now that other chart that I provided you is all the general services that are provided by the county to county residents. This is where it's a little bit of a mixed bag, and perhaps some argument can come back to the county's favor, indicating that there's less of a subsidy than there actually is. I think it's probably up for debate. But what I basically did is I did a straight line test 3 ways. There's certain services that absolutely the cities do not receive. We do not receive planning and zoning services. There's a couple others that we absolutely don't receive. There's some that we absolutely do receive, like the tax collector. We all share in the tax collector. And so we took that as a straight line value. If we received it, that chart says 100%, but if it's 100%, it's really only 56% because unincorporated folks have to pay for that service as well. But then there's another one that's in the county budget. It's called the increment financing. So the county shares their tax increment on CRAs, which are across the county. That number is special because in their budget, I'm assuming that the transfer increment payments is that number. So the county pays out about $12.9 million to all the cities for our CRAs. We assume all of that, so that number's in there. I'll just cut to the chase. At the end of the day, the city subsidized the county to the tune of about $50.6 million. So $50.6 million, and 57% of the ad valorem taxes is brought in by cities. So when new growth comes in to the county, they're receiving a good chunk of that revenue. This is not revenue that just goes to cities. So with that, I'm going to end the presentation. Former Commissioner Elise and I left that part of the presentation out on purpose. Okay, so former Commissioner Dennison asked, why do Mayor and Commissioner asked, why don't we see that money back from the county? I wanted the numbers to speak for themselves, but that would be my argument is so before the county is concerned and says that municipal growth is hurting our roads, municipal growth is hurting Lake County, my response to the county is, where are you spending the unincorporated money? I would argue that the unincorporated money goes out to unincorporated services. And the case in point, I put it up there, is DST revenue and gas tax revenue is a special earmark revenue, and they're formulas. And in fact, the county pontificated on this at their last meeting, and they pontificated about if the cities aren't going to play nice with us, then they're going to change the formulas for how we get road tax money for cities. So I understand that. But my point of this slide, without saying it, was I would argue that city growth is subsidizing county services to unincorporated residents, and incorporated residents aren't getting their value of county taxes. Perhaps some of that money should be spent on roads. Former Mayor Dennison, I wasn't going to say that, but you brought it up, so I said it out loud. And then the other big 2 revenue sources that I think you also need to look at is the DST and the gas tax revenues. Now, there's statutory formulas of how that money is disseminated, but that money and the statutes say you do it the state way or you do it a joint agreement way. In Lake County and in most counties, we do it in a joint agreement way. And actually, the joint agreement way gives the cities more money. So even in that way, I would still come back to you and argue that the city of Leesburg is 7.65% of Lake County, but we still only get 4.5% of the penny sales tax is the DST revenue, and we still only get 4.7% of the gas tax revenue. So in every case, on an ad valorem level and a special revenue level, I would argue that Leesburg is a giver, not a taker, to Lake County finances. So I think those things need to be considered as we talk about the growth equation. So with that, I really tried to be brief, but I think that's important data.
Thank you, Al. We will move to section 3B. It is a resolution. Would someone please introduce?
I'll introduce 3B to be read by title only, please.
Thank you.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, expressing its current position regarding residential annexations and rezonings and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a move for approval, a second. City Commissioners discussion?
I'm gonna withhold my discussion until after public comment.
All right, so we'll open any other commissioners discussion at this time? Okay, we will open the floor for public comments. If you do have something to say at this time, I ask that you form a line over here behind the podium. And just know that each speaker is allocated 3 minutes to provide their comments. Kindly adhere to this time limit to ensure equal opportunity for all participants and to support the efficient conduct of the meeting. Thank you. And when you do come to the mic, if you would please state your name and address for the record. Thank you. And if this, no.
Yeah, it's not a quasi-judicial hearing.
Correct.
You don't need to swear in.
Yeah. And if I would ask the audience to remain quiet and respectful during all comments. Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Is this on? I'm John Brennan, the Rotary Club of Leesburg president, post office box 491-213. Our Honorable Judge Truman Futch founded our club during the Roaring '20s, which was a time of explosive growth, not unlike what we're experiencing today. When the club got together every week, they had lively discussions about the future of Leesburg, including conversations about what's happening today. But they didn't resist growth. They didn't complain about all those Model Ts going up and down Highway 27, couldn't get our horse-drawn carriages across the roads, and they didn't think those airplanes flying overhead had no right to be there, or praying to God, radio waves are coming into our house. Instead, Judge Futch and other visionaries in this community embraced the future. They saw the future, automobiles, airplanes, radios, not as threats, but as opportunities. They asked, how can we get ahead of the growth? How can we get ahead of this wave? And for example, they helped champion a school that was way ahead of its time with 800 to 1,000 student potential at a time when George Rast's class of 1923 had only 17 students. Imagine this, 17 students. They built a school that was 50 years ahead of its time. Years later, Judge Futch became president of the Florida State Senate. He continued forward-looking thinking. Driving back and forth to Tallahassee, he saw two kinds of towns. He saw towns that tried to evade the highway.
Okay, sir, if I can have the audience please remain quiet. It is hard for us to hear, just like you, so please remain quiet. Thank you. If everyone would remain quiet, it would be easier to hear.
He saw strong towns that moved closer to the highway, welcoming the energy and the business of it. Judge Futch wanted to drive. Your microphone's not working. All right. Can I have my time back? Judge Futch wanted to drive growth into this county, which is why he proposed Orange Blossom Parkway to direct Highway 27 right into Leesburg and across Lake County. He spearheaded the 1 cent penny tax to fund what we call today Highway 441. Now, a lot of you are thinking, oh, I wish Judge Futch hadn't done that. Maybe all those millions of cars would have stayed on Highway 27 and bypassed us. But those enterprises on Highway 41 today, the stores, the restaurants, the car dealerships, the big box retailers, the health care providers, the banks, the gas, thanks to Judge Futch, almost half of our Lake County's $1.1 billion came because he brought growth into our city, not trying to get it away from us. Lastly, our zip code 34748 faces critical challenges: high childhood poverty, underperforming schools, poor health care, as well as low GDP, according to the Florida Chamber of Commerce. New prosperity and economic opportunity report. They're looking at our zip code because we're currently in the bottom 10% of Florida's 1,000 zip codes. The Florida Chamber this year aims to shine a bright white hot spotlight light on struggling zip codes like 34748 because their studies prove that growth is the solution to our critical challenges by generating more wealth and more prosperity if that growth is well managed. Maybe the issue here isn't the lack of growth or the need to look at management, because visionary leaders like Judge Futch embrace the growth that we are the beneficiaries of today. Maybe the issue here isn't anti-growth. Maybe we just need to learn how to get better management so that we get ahead of the growth instead of feeling like we're victims of the growth. Thank you.
Greetings, commissioners and the city. My name is Candace Chapman. I'm the founder and the executive director of Virginia Samuels Cares Incorporated, P.O. Box 492032 in Leesburg, Florida. On a lighter note, I'd like to say thank you for the commissioners, especially Commissioner Berry and Mayor Reisman, for being intentionally inviting. I came here today to present Virginia Samuels Cares Day. It is going to be on May 17th at the city of Leesburg, downtown at City Hall. Virginia Samuels Cares was my grandmother. She worked for the city of Leesburg for 31 years. I am honored to be able to present her day in the front steps of City Hall, where she worked hard for 31 years. I don't even think she took a sick day. I have been backed by Advent Health, Wawa Foundation, and Publix, and I make an appeal to the city of Leesburg now to see if you will back us as well. We are geared toward education, toward stroke prevention and mental health awareness. We help those who are incarcerated, who are homeless. We have touched 950 lives in the last 2 years. We have donated over 1,200 pounds of food to the food distribution in Mount Dora Lake Cares, and we have donated over 125 pounds of clothing. This is my appeal to the city of Leesburg and the community. Please come out. It will be a free event. It's from 4 to 7 on the 17th of May. And if I may be considered for future consideration for a sponsorship from the city of Leesburg, as well as looking into our 2023 surplus lot donation request. Thank you for your time. May I leave these?
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Andy Price, 615 South Whitney Road, Leesburg. I'm proud to say I'm one of the newest business owners in the city of Leesburg. I recently opened a branch of my company, American Safety Utility Corporation, right here in town. I couldn't be more excited of what lies ahead for my business, for the community, and for the future of this great city. Our main office in North Carolina employs over 60 hardworking individuals. We've built a strong company there, and I see that same potential here in Leesburg. In fact, our goal is to grow our Leesburg location to be as large, if not larger, than a North Carolina headquarters. That means bringing in more jobs, more training opportunities, and more long-term investment into the local economy. And that's exactly why I'm here today, to speak in support of continued annexation and responsible growth. Because growth is not just a statistic, it's what creates opportunity. It's what allows companies like mine to expand, to hire, to give people meaningful careers, and pour resources back into the community. I've heard some concerns about the pace of growth in Leesburg, and while I understand the need for thoughtful planning, I also know that pausing growth can come at a cost. Without expansion, we risk losing momentum. We risk missing out on companies that want to invest here and families that want to live here and work here. But I want to be very clear, I have full faith in our city leadership to manage the growth wisely. I trust City Manager Al Miner, Deputy Manager Rob Hicks, Mayor Alan Reisman, Commissioner Allison Berry, and the entire commission. I know you care deeply about the city and the people who call it home. You've shown a great and strong commitment to keeping Leesburg's unique charm while pushing us forward in the right direction. We're not asking for unchecked development. What we're asking for is a chance to grow, to create jobs, to support family, and to strengthen the economy and build a future here in Leesburg that benefits everyone. Leesburg welcomed me with open arms, and I want to return that trust by being a long-term partner and a success. Let's keep building, let's keep growing, but let's do it responsibly. Thank you.
Good evening, Mandy Wetstein. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of Lake 100, which represents over 100 businesses and employers in Lake County. We are strongly opposed to any resolution placing a moratorium on residential annexations and rezonings. Leesburg's future should belong to our working families, young professionals, job creators, and lifelong residents who don't want to see stagnation. This resolution undermines the very process that has guided growth in Florida for decades, reviewing each proposal on its own merits through public input, staff review, and commission judgment. A blanket pause removes that case-by-case approach, and with it, the legal and practical foundation for how our system is designed to work. Let's be clear. Moratoriums do not create smart growth. They create uncertainty. They tell investors, employers, developers, and yes, future taxpayers that Leesburg is off limits. That message has consequences, not just for those projects, but for your long-term economic competitiveness and for your families of the future. You want balance between residential and non-residential development? As employers, so do we. But balance is the truth through using our better planning tools, not slamming the brakes and walking away from the table, Commissioner Cannell. You already have the tools to say no to bad projects. What you're doing here is saying no to everything, including the good ones. That's not leadership, that's retreat. This resolution weakens confidence, removes flexibility, and ties the city's hands at a time when it should be exercising judgment, not deferring it. We urge you to reject this policy and return to the case-by-case process that has served Leesburg well. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Terry Gedman, 27426 Pine Store Road. I'm the president of the board for Legacy of Leesburg, which has 999 homes. To say the least, our community is concerned with the building of new homes that has grown exponentially. Over the past 4 years alone, our community, which has ingress and egress off of highways 27 and 48, can no longer enjoy the safety of exiting and entering our community without extreme delays or putting our lives in danger. The speed limit is a mere suggestion for most drivers. There have been severe accidents in front of our community off of 27, including rollovers and the death of a pedestrian on a bike. Additionally, I came from a small city in Florida where we had to eventually put a moratorium or suspension on building and issue permits, and the buildings were based on a lottery system. Perhaps you heard of it. I was born and raised in Key West, Florida. I also worked for the Florida Keys Aqueduct Authority for 35 years, which supplied the water and sewer for the entire Florida Keys and Key West. One thing that was extremely evident there was that there, and as is here, our infrastructure and resources cannot continue to support all the proposed building. We are imploring the City Commission to not approve any more developments or allow for rezoning the land presently zoned for agriculture until such time as more critical issues are addressed. Both Highway 27 and 48 need to be widened if we're continuing to grow. We feel that it's up to the Commission to petition the state and the county to do just that, and not in 10 to 20 years, but sooner. Secondly, it's critical that new developments are required to build their own wastewater treatment plants. Our current facilities cannot keep up with the new demand which will be placed on them. Lastly, water is a precious resource that cannot be taken lightly. There is so much to go around, and our water is being supplied from the Florida aquifer. The Upper Floridian aquifer is the primary source of our water, which is replenished by the rainwater filtering through ground to replenish it. With climate change, we are not guaranteed an abundance of rain to replenish it year after year. And with that in mind, we need to start limiting the amount of new homes being built, which will affect that amount of water being pulled from that aquifer. If we don't, and the levels become too low due to drought or overusage, it is always a possibility that we'll be limited to the amount of water that we can pull from the aquifer, gravely affecting current residents. We ask the Commission to please think responsibly and care for your current residents and not put their safety or quality of life at risk. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pamela Favre. I live at 34150 Park Lane in Leesburg. I am not in the city limits. Pamela Favre, 34150 Park Lane, Leesburg. I live on the Old Silver Lake Golf Course. I'm not in the city, so I don't get to vote for any of you people that are affecting our lives, which after speaking to a lot of these people, a lot of them don't get to vote either. But when Al Miner was making his presentation, all of the data he used for growth is based solely on after the unit is built, after the homes are built, because then they're taxable. My big concern is the huge amount of already approved PUD property, areas that have yet to be built. Because they're already approved, that means one day someone's going to come in and build. Not any other developer has a concrete plant preforming homes and have a line of flatbed trucks with homes already pre-built with cranes building 800 homes a month, except for the villages. Every other development has to build traditional homes, and so they aren't going to be as quick as the villagers, but they're already approved for these areas. And so my biggest concern is you're not counting that in the growth. And it's not being taken into consideration in regard to the traffic, which the mayor and I have discussed. And he said, none of our roads are at capacity, according to the DOT. And I am also a businesswoman. I am a salesperson and I travel all over Central Florida from Lake Panasoffkee to Palatka. And I can call on every type of industry imaginable. When you were talking about the water in Leesburg, you kind of jumped over the Canal Street saying you have other issues. Right now, we have an empty plant where Cottrell moved out. We also lost the big cold storage distribution center. When we want to solicit ourselves for industries, we also have to be able to provide water for specific industries, and we have to make sure that we've got the resources for those to solicit the additional business. Thank heavens for Groveland, because they've got all of these huge warehouse and distribution centers, which will potentially bring a lot of revenue. But I don't see any other big industrial centers being opened up, thank God for Ring Power and how many people they're going to bring. But there's not a whole lot of other areas in the city for us to solicit large employers. So we have to take that into consideration when we're planning so that we have the assets to be able to get the big employers in town. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Don Magruder. I'm the CEO of Romac Building Supply, located at 700 East Main Street in Leesburg. I'm opposed to the development moratorium being proposed tonight for three fundamental reasons. First, in this time of economic uncertainty and peril, why would the city of Leesburg consider putting a closed for business sign up? In the last few weeks, an estimated $12 trillion of wealth has been wiped out of the American markets. The bond markets are wavering, and just yesterday, Ray Dalio, the leading hedge fund manager in the United States, said that he expects us to be in a recession or even worse. In 2006, there were meetings that people didn't believe that the markets would turn down, and they did. The other reason is traffic. I know the traffic is bad, but to blame housing for traffic is not the real reason. The problem with traffic is we're 45 miles from the world's greatest tourist destination, and
Please be respectful. Thank you.
And GPS navigation, every time there's a slowdown or backup on the turnpike, they direct them right through Leesburg. People are forgetting ways in this new technology. We're getting inundated with people heading to Orlando and south. The other fundamental reason is 3 blocks from here, Romac Building Supply has been here 80 years. We hire 615 employees. What do I tell our employees about this commission proposing a moratorium and telling these people they don't have work? We talk about attracting industry. When you put a closed for business sign up, a moratorium, that's all they're going to listen to, and businesses will flee Leesburg. The other thing, what do we tell the thousands of workers in Lake County that depend on the construction industry for work? Do we tell them sorry? What do we tell all the hardworking families tonight that are working paycheck to paycheck in the construction industry and they're worried about the future and they're trying to make ends meet? They don't count. And then better yet, what do we tell the 275 students at the Leesburg High Construction Academy who are expecting jobs when they come out of that academy, who in turn have made that school a school that once was failing to one of the top schools around here? I understand the traffic issues, but these traffic issues were identified a decade ago by the MPO in state. The meeting tonight should be talking about how do you get resolutions of the traffic area. And the problem is this is a failure of government at the county level, state level, and federal level for not addressing these road issues from a decade ago. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Sandy Moore, and I'm here on behalf of the Leesburg Area Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight regarding the proposed suspension on residential development in the city of Leesburg. As an organization that represents local businesses and supports economic vitality, we want to respectfully express our concern about putting a blanket pause on residential growth. While we fully understand the importance of managing infrastructure, traffic, and city services, we believe a full suspension may unintentionally slow Leesburg's long-term progress and put us at a disadvantage compared to neighboring communities that continue to grow and attract investment. Residential development, when managed responsibly, is a key part of a healthy local economy. It brings new residents who support small businesses, help build a strong workforce, and attracts employers who want to locate in vibrant, growing areas. Instead of a broad stop, we encourage the city to evaluate proposed developments individually, taking into account things like infrastructure, readiness, traffic impacts, and alignment with the comprehensive plan. This kind of thoughtful case-by-case approach allows us to plan smartly without missing out on valuable opportunities. We also encourage the commission to work closely with Lake County and the state of Florida on infrastructure and roadway improvements. Regional collaboration will be essential in making sure Leesburg can grow sustainably while still offering high quality of life for both current and future residents. The Chamber supports growth that enhances our community, expands the tax base, and aligns with the long-term vision of Leesburg. We believe this can be achieved through balanced, cooperative planning, not restrictive pauses that may hold us back. Thank you for your leadership and considering the voice of the business community. We look forward to being a part of the conversation and working together toward a strong, sustainable future for our city.
Larry Crook, 26916 Honeymoon Avenue in Leesburg, Legacy. Now I'm from Texas. You may not fully understand what I'm saying in some cases, but tell the new people buy one of the 30,000 homes you got permits for. Okay. The thing is, it's not a permanent situation where you're going to stop things. All we're asking is for maybe a delay, and you do have statute 166.041 paragraph C that gives you the latitude, provided you do 2 public hearings and adopt a resolution stating that we're going to delay it for 9 months. Okay, that's one thing to consider. Now, let me just point out one thing about South Leesburg. You've got 5 communities, Legacy, Arlington Ridge, you've got the Plantation, you got Hawthorne, and you got Highland Lakes. Well, that accounts for about 7,322 homes, roughly 11,000 voters. Okay, so the thing is, we can make some influence in terms of what we're trying to do in this city. It's a great city. You guys got some wonderful services. Now, what I'm looking at right now is assuming that 30,000 homes is probably going to be 60,000 people. Okay, two and a half, they're professionals, they're probably going to have kids, as well as the cars, which could be up to 60,000. You can't do anything about the roads, understand that. The only thing we can do is just maybe petition the state, federal, and try to do something in the future for the roads. Al, I appreciate what you presented. I would recommend maybe going one step further, of maybe looking at like a Gantt chart or something that looks in the next 15 to 20 years. And I've got this, and I'll pass this around for you. That you take that and look at all the fire, utilities, police, roads, traffic, ambulances, school, healthcare, energy grid, environmental impact, single and multi-housing units, economic development, and revenue, and try to project that out. The thing is, I think most people would just like to be assured and have information about what the future holds. And I thank you for your time.
Can you hear me? Okay. So good evening, Mayor Reisman, commissioners, and fellow residents. My name is Beth Williams. I'm at 5500 El Adobe Drive, Leesburg. I'm in that South Leesburg area. But I come to you today as both a citizen of Leesburg and a dedicated HR business professional. I'm concerned in the prosperity of our community. Having chosen to live and grow in small to mid-sized towns and with over 30 years in locally affiliated manufacturing, I have seen the unintended consequences of anti-growth initiatives and how they can damage the future of a community long-term. I have, through the experience of working in local manufacturing, and have observed the concerns surrounding rapid growth, such as traffic congestion, infrastructure strain, and school capacity. Halting development, though, is not the solution. I respectfully submit Leesburg should focus on strategic planning and specific investment to accommodate needed future growth responsibly. The director of the DeVoe Moore Center in the College of Social Science and Public Policy at Florida State University, Sam Stanley, states that a moratorium, pause, suspension, whatever you want to call it, on building may inadvertently harm our local economy, increase housing shortages, and cause job losses. Suddenly ceasing new construction will damage future success and hinder economic development. At some future point, we will have to restart what is occurring now, ultimately affecting our community's well-being. New business will find the path of least resistance, but Leesburg has the potential and should play a vital role in the Florida and the U.S. manufacturing resurgence. Although we may not have the land to host large manufacturing facilities, we can attract the skilled workforce these industries require by continuing to develop workforce housing, enhance our community's quaint appeal. We must position ourselves as the ideal residential hub for workers employed in these nearby manufacturing centers. I also call on you to support for call on your support for the manufacturing bills currently under consideration in Tallahassee. Senate Bill 600 and House Bill 561, sponsored by Senator Trudeau and Representative Cobb, respectively. These bills aim to bolster Florida's manufacturing sector, creating jobs and stimulating economic growth. In conclusion, let's encourage growth with thoughtful planning rather than halting it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jeff Haynes. I moved here a year and a half ago I live on Dewey Robbins. I moved here because of the rural feel of the community. And now I see the villages coming across the road and encompassing me. If I wanted to live in the villages, I would have moved there. There's no affordable housing in there. If you look at the average income in Leesburg, they cannot afford a house in the villages. So they're not building houses for the people that live and work here. They're building their own stuff, their own communities that are, way more rich. And they can afford to do it. And they can stamp out those houses. I watch them build hundreds of them, just driving back and forth to my friend's house in Panasofsky. And it's just astounding how fast they build them. I don't know what to do, and they've cleared all both sides of Dewey Robbins to make way for these places. They've ripped out all of the vegetation completely, and they're putting in fire hydrants. That shows me they're building houses. They're not just waiting, they're going to happen, and they're going to happen fast. And if the villages are doing it, it's going to be very fast. They can knock those out. They're not prefabbed. They build them from the ground up, but they do them fast. And I don't know. I want you to think twice about allowing them to do such expansion, because that's why I moved here, because I wanted the rural feel. Okay, that's all I got to say. All right.
But 1 second, sir.
Yeah.
Could you state your address? We
Pardon
missed your address. If you could state your
I
address.
live on 8601 Dewey Robbins.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. I'm Leslie Campione, the chair of the Lake County Commission, and we definitely need to have a much bigger discussion about some of the information that was discussed tonight. Our big issues, and I think you know this already, transportation funding, the protection of rural areas, protection of the character of Lake County and the quality of life of Lake County. Over the past 10 years, 16,000 acres have been annexed into a municipality. Leesburg has the highest number of acres annexed at 4,568 acres. Of the 16,000 acres annexed, approximately 1,700 were annexed in rural protection areas. That doesn't include also rural areas and rural transition areas on the county future land use map. So I think that's one of the big discussions that we really would like to have with the city of Leesburg. Is to honor the county's future land use map and not annex the rural protection areas and rural transitional areas. I think there's a misunderstanding as well about some of the things that were said tonight about there being some sort of windfall because city residents are subsidizing county residents. The reality is that we all residents of Lake County, whether you live in the city, you live in the unincorporated area, the list of services that are covered by our taxes for the general fund, the clerk of court, the courts administration, the guardian ad litem program, legal aid, medical examiner, tax collector, property appraiser, state attorney, supervisor of elections, public defender, animal shelter, aquatic plant management, countywide emergency radio programs, countywide emergency management, which are required by state to manage the sheriff's services, court services, corrections, our jail, 30% of road operations for the sheriff, probation services, landfill and convenience centers, libraries, transit, parks, public lands, veteran services, Medicaid, hospital that we as a county have to pick up per state law, live stream services, extension services, the water lab, road resurfacing, and a lot of administrative costs that go to serve the constitutional officers. CRA revenues that come back to cities, $12.6 million, $2.7 million of that comes back to the city of Leesburg. I think it's important to know that Leesburg does contribute 8.7% of the county's general fund. That revenue brings in $16.7 million, but if we divide the services per capita, we're coming up short. So it's not a surplus. We're actually in the hole. So I think these are discussions that we probably should have in greater detail, because I think there really is a gross misunderstanding. There is no money to fund big capital transportation projects. A lot of the rural development that's happened in Leesburg has happened on 2-lane roads that are 12 feet in each aisle. These are some of the specific things that we really need to be working on, a completely new transportation funding paradigm, and just ask if you would just honor the county's rural land uses.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Hello, my name is Kevin Baker. I reside right across the street at 425 South 9th Street. I'm a Leesburg resident of 3 years, and I'm a small business owner in downtown. I'm a music teacher with my own shop. My wife works for a restaurant in downtown that's also husband and wife owned. I'm a member of the Downtown Leesburg Business Association, the Leesburg Chamber of Commerce. I'm a worship arts director for a local church, and we have our own nonprofit that does a lot of work in the community, and all of these things require growth. So I'm just here to state that I'm against the suspension, anything that will affect growth. I agree with a lot of the people that say that we just need to trust you to develop wisely, but I'm not against development. And I would argue that the things that we worry about with growth, with if we put a cap on growth, we'll put a cap on future funding, which then can create more problems than we already have now. And that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mario Napa. I live on Stony Brook Drive in Leesburg, Florida. Leesburg is experiencing rapid growth, an encouraging sign of economic vitality. But this growth is putting increasing pressure on the city's infrastructure, particularly its roadways. Development has outpaced the capacity of key transportation corridors like County Road 33, 48, 44, 470, and State Road 27, resulting in worsening traffic congestion, longer commute times, and rising safety concerns. Implementing a temporary moratorium on rezoning and annexation would allow the city a much-needed pause. This would give planners and commissioners the opportunity to work with the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or the MPO, to assess and upgrade critical infrastructure. By temporarily slowing the pace of new development, Leesburg can better align growth with the necessary improvements to roads, public transit, and pedestrian access, ensuring infrastructure keeps pace without diminishing residents' quality of life. As Frank Stanfield noted in a recent article, commissioners, even those opposed to a moratorium, agree that there is a need for road improvements, but that is a county and state issue. While true, this issue cannot be pushed aside. State funding for road improvements has dropped by $127 million over the next 5 years compared to the previous cycle. To make matters worse, Washington just repealed the Carbon Reduction Act, pulling $50 million in funding from District 5 and reclaiming funds from 2023 for projects that were completed but not yet paid for. Local municipalities and counties now face a financial shortfall, worsening budget constraints. It's crucial for this commission to act responsibly in the new era of infrastructure funding. Uncontrolled development also risks eroding the very qualities that make Leesburg desirable to both residents and businesses. Without a thoughtful, measured approach, new developments may be approved without fully understanding their long-term impacts on schools, emergency services, water systems, and other essential infrastructure. A moratorium offers the city a chance to use real data to inform decisions and ensure future growth is both responsible and sustainable. By prioritizing infrastructure first, Leesburg can support smart, well-planned development that strengthens the community instead of overwhelming it. I hope your decisions tonight reflect a commitment to the quality of life and safety of current residents who voted you into office, and not the financial interest of developers. Shortly, we'll see with whom you stand. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bill Polk. I'm residing at 600 Cascade Avenue in Leesburg, Florida. I've been here for 71 years. That's how old I am. Despite the fact that I was in the military for several years, I've been here all my life. When I grew up as a kid, there was about 4,000 people in the city of Leesburg. I ran for city commissioner. I felt like I'd do some help sometime when I did. 1993, I was on the board for 93 to 96. And for the commissioners here today, the first year I didn't say anything. I listened, because I listened to the people that vote for you. I listened to them and let them tell me what they wanted, not what the developers, the real estate people, and all these other people want to do. It's what the citizens of Leesburg want, the quality of life, the good times here. We've got a beautiful place here. Speakers don't work too well, but other than that, you know, it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful city. I love the city of Leesburg. Like I said, I've been here my whole life. But, you know, I don't think Al getting up here showing us a million charts was what 85% of these people even came here for tonight. You know, they didn't want to look at charts. They didn't even understand what the heck they were looking at. And so Leesburg has grown. And one thing that I learned in my 93, 96 episode as a commissioner, Rex Taylor was our city manager, and we had a moratorium on building at that time. I don't know what year, but it was one of those years we had a moratorium on building that year. So we stopped building for a while, but we're not the Commissioner Connell is not asking for anyone to stop building because they can still build under the county regulations. It's not asking that. They're just asking them to take a break. And you know, here's Al arguing about the county getting this and getting that, and then the MPO and this and that. Why aren't these people getting together and wondering why the roads are so screwed up? You know, because like Al said, 27 and Dixie Avenue and South Street, there hadn't been anything done since I was a kid there, hardly. They did 4-lane it in 1973. But, you know, there hasn't been anything done since 1973 that I can tell you about. But as commissioners, y'all need to listen to the public and try to understand that our needs, these people didn't move here to have traffic jams at 5 o'clock in the daggone morning. And I'm from 5 o'clock till about noon, you're going to have a traffic jam on that corner. And nobody's done anything about it. My office is 1.5 miles from the United States Post Office. It takes me 30 minutes to get there. And it takes me 30 minutes to get back. So I'm asking y'all as commissioners to listen to the public. They are the ones that have to live here and want to live here, moved here to have a better life.
Thank you, Mr. Polk.
Give them the chance.
Thank you, Mr. Polk.
And the school, I have friends that are at
Mr. Polk,
school,
your time is
that
up.
are teachers in school.
Mr. Polk,
They can't, yes,
your time is up, sir.
1 second.
No,
They can't get the school buses to the school on time. So what does that do to the school system? It confuses everything. The teachers cannot teach the kids that are not there that are still on the school bus trying to get to school. Please listen to the public. Thank you.
thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the commissioners for their time and the open discussion tonight. My name is Adam Edgington at 11520 Osprey Point. I'm speaking on behalf of the Lake and Sumter Homebuilders Association. We have quite a few board members here tonight as well. We are, as an association, against a moratorium or suspension of annexation into the city. Many people around seem surprised that that there's growth here. I'm not. I'm a Lake County resident for 46 years, and I'm not surprised at all. It's a beautiful area, and that is what makes us a viable destination to move to. My concern and our association's concern is that a moratorium or a suspension is just stopping future planning. It's the same logic as sticking your head in the sand and hoping that the problem goes away. Now more than ever, I would tell you that city planners, along with the county, should coordinate planning on new construction in communities. The moratorium does not move us forward as far as planning goes. It actually exasperates the problem, and I would ask that the commission not vote for a moratorium. I believe that the commission sees that planning is critical to virtually every entity. I can't think of a single business or entity who says that their plan will be just to wing it, not a successful one. So that being said, I would ask that the city not institute the moratorium on annexation. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Tony Uriel. I'm with Hanover Capital and Hanover Land Development Company. I've been developing in Central Florida for the last 35 years and the last 10 years with Hanover. I'm here tonight to thank you for your time and to listen to some of the concerns we have about a potential moratorium. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the rest of our team, Matt Orris. Thank you very much.
Evening. Also would like to thank you guys for your time. My name is Matt Orris. I'm one of the owners of Hanover Capital Partners and also Trinity Family Builders. Obviously, this is an important issue for all of us. And I'm also going to yield my time to Ben Snyder.
Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you, Ben Snyder, 10224 Savannah Ridge Lane, Winter Garden, 34787. Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with respect to growth in Leesburg and the implications regarding this moratorium. In order to respect the Commission's time and not repeat ourselves, I'm going to speak on behalf of the whole Hanover Land and Trinity Family Builder teams. First and foremost, we have been operating in Leesburg and Lake County for over 20 years as a locally family-owned business. We have raised communities from distressed positions like Windsong and White Marsh and have done commercial activities to enhance the attractiveness of the area. Overall, we have been and desire to continue to be a partner in the overall community. These partnerships require consistency, transparency, and thoughtful discussions around growth, which we are fully supportive of conversations like the one we're having tonight. Many of the residents have concerns surrounding additional services, transportation, school improvements, and overall activities, which are all actually solved by responsible growth in the community. Services such as high-end restaurants, grocery stores, salons, and other small businesses are justified almost exclusively by population growth and density. The first component of that site analysts look for future commercial opportunities is the number of surrounding rooftops and the average income of those rooftops. All of the marketing money in the world will not convince businesses to invest in an area that does not have the rooftops and income to support the prospective businesses. Put simply, stagnant rooftops also forces stagnant community investment. With respect to infrastructure, each new home in Leesburg yields over $16,000 towards improvements in new roads, schools, libraries, emergency services, and recreation. School impact fees alone exceed $10,000, which means for each 100-unit subdivision, it creates an additional $1 million of additional revenue for the school board, which is why most of the high growth areas you will generally see the highest rated and most advanced schools. Road and transportation networks receive $3,000 per new home. Road and school impact fees are invested by the county in areas that justify those investments through current and planned growth. Similarly, the recreation fees are used to fund facilities like the recently announced Susan Street Sports Complex that is coming soon. According to a study by the National Association of Home Builders, a 100-unit subdivision creates 419 statewide jobs and over $30 million in economic impact. New residents support and sustain the local businesses.
Sir, your time is up. Sorry.
Even with the...
We don't yield time to anyone. It's 3 minutes per person.
We appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
Hello, Alan Chen, 8010 Treasure Island Road. Most of the people who you hear are against this moratorium. I don't think they realize it's kind of like fake news. I don't think they realize that 30,000 homes times or divided by 33 per month means it goes well beyond the moratorium period. So it really doesn't affect anyone in terms of what they're stating here. Anyways, I want to briefly mention a few points regarding the rampant over-annexation and development that Leesburg has been doing the past decade and more recently the last few years. First and foremost, I want to thank Commissioner Cannell for this proposal and being the voice of reason. Second, I live off Sierra 44 by Treasure Island. As others has said, the traffic is horrendous, especially during morning and evening rush hour. It takes a long time, sometimes 5 to 10 minutes just to exit onto Sierra 44 as a result. Third, regarding traffic, every traffic study we have seen indicates no issues with Sierra 44 and as stated anywhere in the county. Similar to sound studies whose requirements are very poorly specified, significant amount of time averaging takes place. This makes traffic issues seem much less of a problem than they actually are. Fourth, regarding traffic studies, in particular along 44 and CR 473, all the way to CR 473, annexations for high-density 1/7 acre per home developments are popping up all over the place. And that's actually on this chart here along this north section here. Shouldn't traffic studies plan and build in, as mentioned before, the expected growth from the thousands of additional vehicles per day due to this growth? Fifth, regarding CR 44, the MPO, Metropolitan Planning Org, which was mentioned by Mr. Minner, lists this road as number 19 on the priority list, not to be improved, but just to be studied. The residents along CR 44 will pay the price for many years to come. Sixth, if CR 44 were to expand, you are allowing these developments, for example, plans for Treasure Trove, to build close to the current roadway.
It's in this book.
The MPO. All of these would have to be moved, including those lines laid for water, sewer, utilities, which are also against the side of the road, including the power poles for Duke and Leesburg Electric, would have to be moved if CR 44 is widened. Seventh, it looks like the intent is to eventually line the entire CR 44 to CR 473 with the city of Leesburg. The county may then force that section of CR 44 to be city road, in which case you may be responsible for the cost of expansion and maintenance. Eighth, there is something called smart city planning, which looks at infrastructure of the area before considering expansion and development. This is sorely lacking here, as this is much a build first, worry second approach. You should hire a city planner who is better qualified, has the background for growth for the future.
Thank you.
I have a 9th and a 10th too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oops. Mine is going to be about the environment, but I'll take over the rest of Alan's. Ninth, regarding, oh, my name is Louise Chen. I live at 8010 Treasure Island Road. I love Leesburg, by the way. I only want the best of it. I want to give a shout out to Commissioner Cannell. I think that he's been poorly maligned today. I don't think that his proposal was fairly represented, okay? I think that Mr. Minor did a disservice to him by not telling everyone the moratorium is only for residential, to look at residential. It's nothing about stopping businesses. This gives the county a chance to look at bringing in better businesses, such as semiconductors, you know, foundries. That's what we need, for high-paying jobs for our community to build around them. This has nothing to do with stopping businesses, only halting. And we already have, as you see on Alan's map, there are already many unused, already approved annex properties for the builders to build on. There's nothing stopping the builders. It's been misrepresented all night. I really think that Ms. Cannell, Commissioner Cannell, sorry, should have had a chance to present his own presentation tonight.
Yes.
Ninth, regarding a smart city approach, the city of Leesburg should develop and hash out a joint plan agreement or JEP with the county. Per Commissioner Sean Parks, he has been trying to get a JPA going with the city for the past 3 years. It is time to do it so things can be done as a cooperation. Enough finger pointings like second graders. 10th, we realize that developers represent big money in what you charge for basic utilities, and that's a lot of what this is about. Just remember that midterms for some of you are less than 2 years away, and people have long memories. So, did I forget anything, or did Alan forget anything? A shout out to Commissioner Cannell for this proposal. And I really would like to suggest that this be tabled until the next meeting so that we can have a thorough discussion on what this moratorium really means and what can be built. And I know that Al and I'd be willing to help with the business aspect of bringing in high-tech businesses that we really need. And lastly, I want to talk about the snail kite, which is a resident of Emerald Marsh. It is a federal designated endangered bird, and we are so honored to have them growing here. Leesburg has got Emerald Marsh. It's so beautiful up there. And we're not really making the full usage of what we should be doing. It could be a tourism thing that is a badly lacking business here too. Anyway, thank you very much. Appreciate you all for your work.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners and Mayor Reisman. Thank you so much for listening to us this evening. It's been a long night already. I just wanted to say, Louise said a lot of the things that I wanted to say, which this is not a stopping on building. Oh, my name? Lisa Hayden, 35121 Dennis Road, Leesburg. This is what is Commissioner Canella's proposing is not to stop building. We're not going to stop issuing building permits. We're not going to stop issuing certificates of occupancy. This is just a moratorium on more annexations for residential developments or going from rezoning from non-residential to residential. As Louise so eloquently put, it is a way for us to focus on commerce, on industry, and my pet peeve, the schools. I really think we have great schools that have, I see these awards that are given out at almost every meeting to Leesburg schools. It's tremendous, and bless these students for working so hard, but we know that there are thousands of more students on their way into these schools, and if we can get them prepared, we maybe have 21 months with this pause on annexations. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great night.
Hi, Ray Hayden, 35121 Dennis Road, Leesburg. Everybody else pretty much took out what I had to say, but it's kind of piecemeal and everything else. But what like Lisa just said, it's a moratorium on annexation. It's not stopping anything. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's approved. This, you guys know this. It's more for everybody else, anybody who might not understand that, especially builders. It's not stopping anything. If you already have properties that you own or manage or approved to start building in the properties, that doesn't stop. You got 60 years. I guarantee I'll be long dead and gone before these things are even done. There's no need to annex anything as far as these pocket housing things go. There's a development on 473 or 473. They looks like a trailer park. Nothing against the trailer park. The manufactured homes are fine, but this is individual houses. They're so close together. You can reach your hand out and shake your neighbor's hand. I hope you're on good terms, because they're packed in. I could show you a picture of them. I don't have it, but Alan showed me a space shot of it. I was like, that is insane. We watched it be built and they're like on top of each other. It's insane. There's 50-foot lots. They look like they're less. Now, I'm sure they're 50-foot lots, but they look like they're less. They're on top of each other. It's ridiculous. And not just another half a block over, there's houses with at least some property around their house. It's insane. Coming here today on 441, it was like a death trap to try to make the left turn to come down to this. And we know where we're going. We know what we're doing. Lisa drives down that exact same route every single morning. Is stuck in the traffic. I've been told, and I understand that the traffic is from somewhere else. It's going from somewhere else through Leesburg and then to somewhere else. Okay, great. So a stranger is going to kill me on the road. That's ridiculous. I just got a nice Grand Central tour of the hospital area trying to get back to over to here tonight. Okay. I knew that there was a helipad, like that. There's a helipad at the airport. So I know that there's a road around the, I had to use that to end up being able to make my turn to get on to the right to come over here. It took me an extra 10, 15 minutes just to get here. And we had to start out early. The traffic here may not be being built here, but they are the people coming through here. And there's more of that from the villages. There's more of that on every direction. It's when I moved up here, when I saw that electric grid from the villages being put in, I was like, told my wife, I said, they're coming at us. We just bought a 20-acre lot and they're coming at us. The Villages is coming at us. Tampa's coming up this way. Orlando's coming up this way. And the people over on the Space Coast are like, we're sick and tired of this and we're leaving. And they're coming this way. Don't get us stuck with this, the Broward County, Dade County, and Pinellas County. Check them out, okay? Thank you very much. The moratorium's good. It's not a cancellation.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Stokes Wrinkle. I am a sixth-generation Floridian, a Lake County native, a Leesburg native. I was born and raised in Leesburg, graduated from Leesburg High School. So I am here. I currently reside in Lady Lake, 39601 French Road, Lady Lake. You want, Mr. Minor had, just real quick, I'm getting sidetracked because I want to bring this up. One of his little charts he showed the highest growth, the lowest growth over the past, I don't know, handful of years, and Lady Lake was mentioned, so I took note of that. Highest growth in 2015 for Lady Lake, that's when Villages were going heavy, strong, everything's getting built out. Lowest growth in 2024 for Lady Lake. There's nothing left to build on. Lady Lake's gone. There is a little tiny sliver of rural land in Lady Lake that I fight hard to try to save. That's it. Everything else is gone. Lady Lake is gone. I desperately don't want to see this happen to Leesburg. I grew up South Leesburg, all that y'all have annexed in. Can't tell you how many hours I've spent on my horse riding those beautiful rolling hills and those cow pastures. The traffic now, I have an organic farm in Lady Lake. I'm a dirt farmer. And my aunt drives from Webster to come work for me. You know how long it takes her to get from Webster to my farm in Lady Lake? An hour and 15 minutes on good days. That's insane, my people. That's insane. So I am here. I don't hear anybody mentioning the environment. Haven't heard one person speak up about the environment here. I've watched the Villages, sorry. I've watched the Villages fill in springs, sinkholes with springs. I've watched them rape and pillage Central Florida to the point that I'm almost ready to leave, but I love my state. So I told myself, Stephanie Lynn, you can no longer complain if you are not willing to stand up and fight. So that's what I do now. I stand up and fight for my state. Somebody has to. Somebody has to. 53 seconds. Let me throw this out here to you. Florida Panther, our state mammal is in peril in this state. I didn't even realize it until I started doing research, fighting another development on a piece of land in our RPA, Emeralda RPA. Y'all like to annex into the RPA down here. We're fighting to save our rural protection area up there in Lady Lake. That is the last of our rural land we have. It's what the county put aside in the rural protection area, the RPA. But the Panther, we're cutting off, for the Panther to survive in this state, we're currently cutting off every corridor path. We're saving, some farmers and ranchers are given little slivers of land, but we're allowing these developers to come in. Is anyone given a forethought to the extinction of this precious animal? Thank you very much for your time. Jay Connell, I support you, Jay Connell. I support you, Jay Connell.
Hello, Cindy Newton. I live in unincorporated Lake County on Lake Swatara. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. First, I do commend the commission for launching an incentive and rebate program to reduce unnecessary water usage. We need these proactive steps towards sustainability. I also apply your goal for achieving a monthly residential use target of 100 gallons per capita. It's a vital benchmark that aligns with both environmental responsibility and long-term water security. How close are you to reaching that goal? According to the St. Johns River Water Management District Central Springs East Coast Regional Water Supply Plan, our region will see a 30% population increase by 2040. Even with conservation, water use is still expected to increase by at least 21%, indicating that more aggressive action is needed. The Water Resource Assessment
determined that traditional water sources like the Upper Floridian aquifer will not be able to meet our demand without causing harm to our water resources and ecosystems that depend on them. If we continue on our current path, we risk failing to even meet our minimum flow levels known as our MFLs. These are critical thresholds to sustain our springs, rivers, and aquifers. Projects are in the works for recharge, but these could take decades to implement. With this projected growth, we are looking not only at a huge increase in pumping from the aquifer, but also near future water use restrictions that will only increase for current and future residents. Overpumping already reduces the flows and increases pollution in our rivers and springs. If left unchecked, the aquifer could eventually be depleted to the point where we're forced to rely greatly on the lower Floridian aquifer, bringing significant higher infrastructure and treatment costs, making your expansion into rural areas even more expensive. The MFLs are not just technical benchmarks. They're the line between sustainable water use and irreversible ecological damage. Let's continue to pursue policies that encourage conservation, discourage all the excessive growth and pumping, and ensure our water systems maintain healthy, resilient for generations to come. Thank you for your time.
Wow, you guys got a job. I feel sorry for you having to be picked on like you do, but my name is Jack Williams. I'm from 4142 Corley Island Road, and my family has been in this city of Leesburg for over 100 years. I've been 71 years. Bill Polk and I schooled together in class of 72, and I've had 3 businesses that I did communications. But let's talk about some of the things I've got. I'm going to be here before your board on the 24th with another issue. But here's what we need to look at: the integrity of Leesburg from a standpoint. A long time ago, Leesburg High School called me up and says, "Jack, you have a business that can bring our youth along. How can you teach them to be a communications technician?" And so I said, well, let me go over there and look at it. We had a DE program back at Leesburg High School that motivated a lot of people to be successful leaders in this community. But when I ride around here these days, I would say for the youth that coming out of Leesburg High School, you better be looking for the best hamburger flippers there are that you can do. There is no job here. In 72, I'd ask, where are you going to school? University of Florida. Where are you going to go? Different ones, the jobs. But you know what was sad? Nobody wanted to stay here in Leesburg. Now, I didn't mention that I was in citrus. You guys, this town and area was formulated way before you guys came to town. It was Cattle King. It was Citrus King. And there are some bad things that happened in those days that caused Leesburg to be as small as it is. We were 4,000 people. We haven't grown much considering the other areas around. But let me jump to something that's bothering me. 27. This is what I get up to quite a few mornings of the week. It takes 20 minutes to get into Leesburg. And I'm only a mile and a half south of Leesburg. I'm Corley Island Road. Thanks to the interstate. Let's look at where it is. A lot of people are complaining about the roads around here, but we needed a system that went around, starting with around Stock Subdivision, out on the other end of town. Let's bypass a lot of this area. And I got 30 seconds, so I'm going to try to make it quick. But Stock Subdivision, just bringing it up, right down 27, coming into town, what is a statement that you see it's run down? City of Leesburg, please help some of the people around here to bring our community up. Start in Stock Subdivision and put some money in developing there and help people come to this town. And I'm going to yield with that. But anyway, I appreciate all of you. Mr. Connell, you did a great job. Appreciate it.
Hi, my name's Vance Yoakum. I write a blog called fiscalrangers.com. I've been going to city meetings in this county and the school district for 18 years now. And I haven't been here for about 3 years, but now it seems I have to come back here. Last time I was here is when you had a joint meeting with Leslie Campione and people from the county talking about this same issue of bad traffic. And at this meeting, one of the people at the big table up there said, well, we don't care about the traffic because that's a state and a county issue. And that is exactly, I probably, if I go back, I can find it in a video and who said it. But the thing is that I moved here from Southern California 20 years ago, and to get away from traffic. And so I've seen what really bad traffic is, but back in California, they had master planning where they had grids and they allocated the land beforehand for 3 lanes each way on the major collector roads. Here we got, 1 lane each way or 2 lanes each way. And you've got a problem with lakes in the way. You've got agriculture. You've got parks that make it impossible to have straight roads and a grid, which makes it very efficient. So I think you need to accept that. One of the things I've observed at a number of these planning and zoning issues is that the developer is always the one that finds and pays for the expert that does the traffic study. Okay? And I didn't say that, but I was a corporate internal auditor and anti-corruption manager and certified fraud examiner for many years. And I'm used to dealing with data. And I've looked through a number of these traffic studies, and I can tell you that these firms are shopping for the best opinion they can get, which I think other people have said here. Magically, it comes out and says there's no problem with this intersection. Okay? And I think that you and the rest of the cities in the county need to get away from that process. You need to change the rules so that you hire an objective traffic analyst. Okay? Because I've even talked to the people NPO that set the rules, and the rules come from a higher group, a national group. And I really question, as an auditor would, the validation of that data. I think a lot of it is cooked personally. And so the other thing is, I don't know whether you've ever had a study done by urban3.com. It's a planning and regional company that does studies of the cost of expanding your neighborhoods.
Thank you, sir.
And that every home loses money. And you should get one of those studies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gene Everson, 27409 Pine Straw Road in Leesburg. We're not talking about a moratorium because that's the M word everyone wants to stay away from. So what we're really talking about is a stay for roughly 18 months on any new annexations. Now, you may ask why to do a stay. Well, first, before I get to that, what's going to happen during those 18 months? You'll have roughly 600 houses that's going to be built using the current monthly average of new permits. So that would bring us down to 25,000 houses waiting to be built by the beginning of 2027. So you may ask why to do a stay in the first place, because once the annexation of the property is done, that property is gone, and you'll never get that back again. Or what you could do is consider changing the city seal, to add an image of Pac-Man and superimpose it over the city's shield, because that's just what you're doing. You're just eating up more and more of the land. And I yield back.
Wayne Ray, 950 Boylston Street, right here in Palmer Park. I think what my concern is, and a lot of my neighbors, is the lack of being able to take care of our communities and what we have. I'm going to give you all a good example. I have a neighbor that lives 2 houses north of me, whose yard floods every time we get rain. Never happened, and I've lived there for 25 years. It never used to happen till the street got repaved, which is only once in 25 years. You all put a water box in to help for drainage, but never hooked it up. So last hurricane, he sat out there for 5 days pumping water from the box that's not connected down the street to the box that is. The reason why the box isn't connected is we don't have any money in our budget because of the trees in your easement. The other thing that's crazy, if you drive around the city to some of the older neighborhoods, the trees that are hanging over the streets that the garbage trucks bounce off of is terrible. And we don't have a bucket truck and a wood chipper and a tree crew to go out and maintain what we have within our city limits. It's crazy. I sold to utility companies for 30 years of my career, all over North America. Duke Power, Florida Power and Light, Los Angeles Water and Power, and a bunch of little small municipalities. One of my best customers was City of Moorhaven, Florida. They have a tree truck and a wood chipper. So I ask you all just to go drive around some of the older neighborhoods and look at the branches hanging over that the garbage trucks are bouncing off of that we can't maintain. Also, I don't know if he's still parked over at the park, but we have a white van that hooks up to City Electric, runs his AC unit and whatever else he has in this custom van all day long. Where I'm from, that's stealing power from our own city. I ask you to go to the pavilion right over here at the bridge. Look at all the garbage in the grills that are there for people to use to grill hamburgers and hot dogs. We need to start thinking about those kind of things within our city, and I'll just leave it at that.
Gary Custer, 8909 East Treasure Island Avenue. I've spoken to most of you. You've all seen me at your meetings. I've always spoke about the same thing, the traffic, the congestion. And every one of you that I've spoken to personally has said, it's not our problem. It's county problem. I've spoke to the county. County says you won't deal with them. You don't meet with them. You don't do anything to help that situation. It's called cooperation. You gotta cooperate with people. That's all it takes. Leslie was up here and she said the same thing. Come meeting, let's talk, but you don't do it. Why is that? Why won't anybody meet with them? Why don't you do what you're supposed to do? These people out here are your voters. I'm not. I can't vote for you, but they can. You're burning it up, man. I mean, you can make numbers say anything you want. I live in reality. You can't get from one place to another in this town anymore. It's ridiculous. And it's traffic. And you don't do anything to fix it. You fix what's going to the villages. Yeah, you made that better. You improved all that. But you ain't improved Highway 44. You improved 441, trying to move them through. You know, the one guy said that it's just traffic going through. No, it's not. I know 2 people that moved down here from Illinois that said, I got to get out of here. And they went back. They were here for 1 year and said, man, this is crazy. I can't deal with this. And it's all because you won't meet with the county You won't plan things out. And this is not a moratorium on building. It's not a moratorium on building. They're not saying you can't build. You got more property already annexed than you could ever build on in the next 20 years. Why annex more? Plan. You can plan things. You can plan out roads. You can plan out a lot of things, but do something better than what you're doing.
Hello, my name is David Chambliss. I live at 33144 Iron Gate Drive, Leesburg 34788. So I don't vote for y'all either. I'm in unincorporated. However, my backyard is city. I have a Tavares phone exchange, a Leesburg address, and my daughter went to Leesburg High School. I went to Tavares because at the time I lived half a mile in the opposite direction. But I've lived in Leesburg all of my life. And the problem that we're having is not about the annexing. It's about what Commissioner Campione was talking about, the rezoning. My backyard is a wetland. It's a marsh. And there's a developer right now that wants to put a subdivision behind our subdivision, but there's no access to it. So they want the city of Leesburg to rezone the wetland into PUD so they can put a road through. The zoning board approved. Already done. You see who I work for. So I don't get to make these meetings. I didn't get to be at the zoning meeting, so I didn't get to speak. But from what I understand, it's already been approved to be rezoned. And so now I'm going to have a road going through my backyard. Literally, I have a retaining wall, which is my backyard. And then my view was the marsh. I live right behind the Lake Square Mall. We've been there 16 years. We bought that house as like a forever home to retire there because of the view. It's peaceful, it's quiet, with the exception of the traffic on Radio Road, which is going to get worse because of all the development in the area. The thing with it is we don't really have a say. I can't fight the developer. I don't have millions of dollars in my back pocket. The developers are going to do what they're going to do. So what I'm asking is consider the rezoning part. If it's a wetland, let it be a wetland. It was a wetland to begin with, and when it starts raining again, it's going to be a wetland again. I feel bad for the developers, actually. I don't care how big a road they put through. When we get our rains back, and if we get a hurricane, their road will be underwater. And so with that, I thank you for listening. And I'm not going to say anything about traffic because, again, you see who I work for. I'm in it every day. So thank you.
Hello, my name's John Preston. I live at 30329 Red Tree Drive over in the Sunnyside area. I also can't vote for you guys because I'm in unincorporated county area. And I guess I might be the last one speaking, I don't know. But I've only been here 2 years. And I came up from Broward County, which is crowded as heck. First thing I want to say is we got to think of a community, right? The biggest thing I keep hearing over and over again is the word subdivision. Subdivision isn't a neighborhood, right? We want to just grab land, build these little things. They're not connected. They're all separated. They're all highly dense. You can't see these houses that are close together. Somebody already mentioned there isn't going to be like trees or anything growing up in those things like in an older neighborhood. You know, even Plantation where I came from, they had larger lots. The city would put in trees along the swale for people. You had to have a certain number of trees and stuff in your lot. But the trick is building a community. The problem they have down there with all the canals and everything is every one of those little subdivisions are all separate. They're not neighborhoods. We need to think about Leesburg and the surrounding areas around Leesburg. How are we going to connect all this stuff together? You know, we do need the tech jobs. We got lots and lots of regular shops and this kind of stuff, but you got to have ways for people to interact with each other, you know, live together and not be separated out and not just have a developer come in, mow down a bunch of trees, throw in this subdivision that's not connected to anything, and then have to think about later, us as taxpayers are gonna come back and say, oh, that should have been a widened road. We're gonna put in crappy sidewalks. We're not gonna think about having multi-use paths or anywhere for people to get around other than cars and more cars and more cars. It's just gonna get more and more dense. If you just let it fill up, the problem you're gonna have is you're gonna have to go back and figure out how to get rid of stuff to make it more livable. And it's my first time speaking to you guys, so I'll stop there. Thanks.
Any other public comments before we close public comments? Seeing none, I'll close public comments and I'll take it back to the commissioners. Commissioner Cannell?
Yes, sir. We've heard a lot of things tonight, and there is a lot of rumors that are going around concerning this resolution that are just flat not true. Some of them have been dispelled tonight, but I want to go back over them again. This resolution does not stop growth in the city. The city of Leesburg would still issue permits for new homes. It doesn't stop any annexations into the city if that property is being proposed to be developed for commercial purposes. I do promote commercial development. We need economic development. We need more jobs. I don't necessarily know right now we need more houses. So that resolution does not stop the annexation of commercial, and it would not stop the building of homes. The people that've got up here tonight and wanted to express concern about this is going to put people out of business, it's going to put people on the unemployment line. Well, we have, based on the numbers spoke to tonight, as of 2024, there's over 25,638 to be exact, as of 24 lots that have been approved on that could be developed and be built on. That number, I'll assure you tonight, is higher than the 25,000 number. That was almost a year ago. Probably getting closer to 30. So those people that get up here tonight and want to say these things, they're trying to gaslight everybody and scare everybody. It's just absolutely not true. There's plenty of lots to be built on in the city, over 25,000. It's not putting anybody out of business. And like I said, it still allows for commercial development, which I do agree with. Presently, to give you an example of the 25,000 plus lots that's already been approved in the city that have not been built on, Leesburg currently only has 16,281 existing homes in it. If that kind of sheds a little light on how much 25,000 plus lots are. The existing Leesburg only has 16,000 homes in it. I think that's quite a bit of lots to have on the books. Again, how much more do we need? And keep in mind now, this resolution's a temporary stay. This isn't a permanent thing. It doesn't stop construction of what's already been approved. It's just saying, hey, we're going to take a break. We're going to take a step back. Let us regroup and let us look at what we have on the books. And we're going to get to what that would look like in just a minute. Our city utilities, our water and wastewater system. Based on our presentation tonight, and we'll use those numbers, our wastewater plant can only accommodate 7,200 more homes before we would have to look at spending tens of millions of dollars in expansions of a wastewater plant. So 7,200 more lots, but we've already approved over 25,000 lots, and we only have a wastewater system to accommodate 7,200 of them. Our water, based on our conceptive use permit that's permitted through St. John's, would only allow 8,000 more homes before we would have to go back to the state and ask them to allow us to pump more water. So our city utilities, presently, water and wastewater, could only accommodate about 25% of the 25 to 30,000 lots that are approved on the books without major expansions to wastewater systems and getting a consumptive use permit increased. So I don't know that we need to continue to annex more property presently when our utilities can only handle 25% of what's already been approved in this city without millions, tens of millions of dollars in expansions of services. The latest school concurrency report I've seen is our high schools at 90% capacity. I think that needs to be taken consideration as we look at bringing more property into the city. Where are these kids going to school at? The road system. Well, the roads are simply not adequate to handle even what we have now, much less the 25,000 plus lots have already been approved, and if we continue to annex more. So we need to take that in consideration also and put a temporary pause on some annexation until some of these issues can be addressed. With the 25,000 plus lots that are approved, and keep in mind that 25,000 is a low number because that was a year ago. But we'll use that number, the 25,000. If you use the latest census report at 2.8 per household, that 25,638, if you really want to get down to it, at the 2.8 equates to over 71,000 new residents, which would equate to about 142,000 more vehicles on our road. That's impossible. It just cannot happen. Perspective. The 71,786 new residents that the approved lots would accommodate. Leesburg's present population as of 2024 is around 33,000. So you're talking about over double the population of just the lots of people that's been approved that haven't been built yet. The numbers used tonight in the presentation were 396 new units per year. Now, keep in mind, that number can majorly fluctuate. I think 396 right now is probably a low number because I think the housing market is in a downturn and interest rates are still high. We get a booming market back and the interest rates drop, that number could jump from 396 to 1,200 in any given year, in my opinion. So based on the slide presentation tonight, I think you need to take that in consideration. Those numbers that were proposed on the slides presentation were on the low end, very conservative, not taking into consideration that we could have a housing spike, and that's a real possibility. But just using the 396 number and using the 25,000 and change of lots we've already got approved, that gives us enough growth for building houses for the next 65 years. I don't know we have a need to continue to annex more property, and when you're sitting on 65,000 lots of surplus to build on, I just don't see it. So I don't see why we need to keep annexing property into this city when we're sitting on that. So in closing, I want to just recap on a few things. This resolution does not stop permitting for new homes. It's not putting nobody out of business. It's not going to hurt anybody's business. We have 25,000 lots. You only have 16,000 homes in the city. There's plenty of land to build on. This is a temporary stay. And what this temporary stay would allow us to do, and it's a 21 months temporary stay which will be imposed, what it would allow us to do is take a step back and let's evaluate what's on the books. Let's evaluate our utility systems. Let's evaluate our road systems. Let's evaluate our school systems. And let's get with the county and what we can do with the roads. Let's get with the school system and see what we can do with the school system. Let's evaluate our own utility system. I think, I've heard this for years up here. I'm tired of hearing blaming the county for our road system. Well, yes, our road system, the majority of them does belong to the county. But that's an easy way out for this city. We're contributing to the problem by continuing to annex and rezone these properties by putting this traffic on these roads. We can't continue just to blame the county for our road system. We have to take, and you know, I mean, we have to take responsibility for our own action. And by annexing all this stuff, we are creating the problem on these roads too. It's not just a county issue. So I will say tonight in closing, a yes vote tonight is a vote for the residents. A no vote tonight is a vote for big business. That's all I have.
Any other commissioner comments?
I'll start the fun here. Let's see. First of all, sorry, I feel like I'm yelling this thing. Can you hear me? First of all, we would be here till midnight if I had to rebut all the inaccurate statements I heard tonight. But I want to keep my comments positive. People are moving to our state, whether I like it, whether you like it. It's a great state for all the right reasons. People are moving to Leesburg. I'm happy people want to move to Leesburg. The frustration is roads. I'm not going to touch a lot of other subjects. The roads are the issue. I drive these roads. I have my own frustrations. I think the best thing that can come out of this meeting is, we do need to meet with the county and state. I'm not going to sit here and blame this city entirely. That's not an accurate statement. But we need to talk about things that people don't want to talk about. Developers, number one, developers may need to pay more. Nobody wants to raise impact fees. We probably need to talk about raising road or traffic impact fees. I forget the exact name. And that dirty word, we may need to raise taxes. When people talk to me on the street and they finally aggravate me, I say, I can build your roads. You want to pay more taxes? And they're annoyed. They don't want to pay more taxes. But we're going to have to sit down with the county. We're going to have to talk to the state. I'm going to may have Commissioner Burry help me out on this one, but the MPO, it's a 5-year plan for Central Florida. We have no roads on that project right now, which is crazy. And Commissioner Burry can probably help me out on this one. It tells me there are bigger needs in Central Florida because I believe it's based on data. So, that's concerning. But once again, that's a funding issue. So people are pouring into state and we're going to have to deal with it, at multiple levels. As far as this, let's just call it a moratorium, which, I think we're going to have some legal liability there, but that's another subject. The commercial development follows residential. So if our city will be tainted by a moratorium, it will bring commercial development to a halt. Maybe not a halt, but it'll definitely slow it down. And I don't think people want that, but that's what happens with moratoriums. As far as well, I'm not going to go down that path. I'll stop right there. Yeah, thank you.
We're going to be respectful. Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Berry.
Good evening. Hope you can hear me. I have some comments, please, and I've listened to everyone and have made notes as well. So the question I pose is, what comes first, the horse or the cart? Do we move forward with development and hope that infrastructure catches up? Or do we prioritize infrastructure before allowing more growth? A better question might be, who even has the horse right now? We all recognize the critical need for infrastructure, but should we ignore that the need and continue development anyway? This is the dilemma that's frustrating our residents and stressing our city leadership thin. It is not an ideal situation for the city, but I do believe we're doing better and continuing our due diligence. The state of Florida has already indicated that we are not ready to address the roads in these areas. This further complicates our ability to move forward effectively. I'm looking back in earlier leadership with the commission. I've learned that towards the residential development, it was chosen to do rooftops, not industry. Now we're seeing the long-term impact of that choice. We've lost one of our key industries, which was discussed earlier, which would probably affect our utilities revenues. And while halting more construction might seem to be a quick fix, but doing so would economically set us back even further. It would take much longer to recover. My concerns are, in this year's legislation, there was 1,900 bills filed, and 500 will impact our cities. Most of them were issues that haven't even been addressed yet. The Live Love Act, that rezoning will be taking place and doing whatever whoever wants to do with developers wherever. The no longer having a CRA will be greatly affected for the city. We have 3 CRAs that we highly rely on for us to doing our development and helping to rid the blight in our city. If we wait a year or 12 months or however, this will set us back even further for the district I represent, because they won't have a CRA later on. In 2027, we might not ever have this opportunity again. So there's a lot of things to consider, and believe me, I know how difficult it is, because I've been listening to each person and really trying to, one, empathize, but really try to understand, do you really know what's coming down later on? Everyone wants to make sure that you pay property taxes. There might not be any property taxes. If you've been listening and watching the legislative, what's coming up, it'll be a whole different ordeal. So there's lots of things to consider. I'd also like to and put in another critical component, is that our ISB, oh, excuse me, my time is up. Do I allow it that? Another critical point too that we must recognize is our ISBA. We have definitely, I know for a fact for me coming on board, we are definitely doing what was proposed back from 2004 with the earlier commissioners, and we're here now. So what I'm trying to say is everything that we have been working for to bring rooftops, we're here to deal with it, and we're welcoming that, because that's more in our city, that's more in our downtown area. We have we have no industry, but that's not to say it won't come. The commercial will come once the rooftops are in place. And that is basically what we're seeing and experiencing, whether we like it or not. So we can work collaboratively, and that's what I would like to get on as my main focus and my main focus and my main point. So why can't we work more collaboratively with the county to both widen the roads and begin phased development for our 30,000 homes, which we've already approved? Realistically, that kind of build out will take at least 5 to 7 years, 10 or 12 years, or even more. Who knows? Lastly, I just want to address public perception. Each annexation request each annexation request presented by planning and zoning comes with detailed documentation that is public information. One is including a traffic study, which always is listed, stating that with this development, these homes will not cause any effect on the roadway, which often state there are no issues with the proposed developments. I would like to request representation from both traffic studies, whoever is doing it, and a person from the county to be at our meetings to address your concerns when you have questions, or when we are unable to ask the details that you're asking. I think this is a start for where we need to work together, but stopping for is already in place, what we've been hoping for and been put in place from previous commissioners. I don't think that's the ideal thing. So these are my comments, and I thank you for listening.
Commissioner Barry, Commissioner Barry, I'd just like to say a couple things. This isn't stopping growth. This is just stopping a temporary pause on annexations. We still have over 25,000 lots that people can build on, and it does not stop commercial annexation. It only stops temporarily for 21 months annexations of property into the city that are being proposed to be developed for residential purposes. This has nothing to do with stopping commercial development, and it does not stop any type of development as far as residential property. they can develop all 25,000 acres in the next 21 months if that's what they want to do. They've got plenty of property to develop on. This is a temporary stay for us to get a handle on our water, our wastewater system, our road system, and our school system. It's just a temporary stay. It does not stop building at all, and they have, like I said, over 25,000 lots to build on, and we only have 16,000 existing homes in the city. So by comparison, they've got plenty to build.
But
I just want to clarify that.
But Commissioner, by making the 21 months, how do we know that will be enough time to do it?
Well,
understand what's better?
and we don't. I would say as you get closer towards the end of 2026, we would have this discussion again to see, are we at that point now where we want to release this temporary stay? Do we have a handle on our water, wastewater, school, and road system? And if we don't, if we need more time, we can always ask, or we can vote for a continuous to add a little bit more time to it. But if we feel like we have a good handle on it at that point, then we just let it sunset in January of 27. It's like I said, just temporary stay.
So, to touch on the question that Mike had with regards to, it was, only yeah. because I know you serve on that board, or you're our liaison to the MPO, so I was going to let you speak to that more than me. Yeah, so currently in Leesburg, the section of 441 from Perkins to Newell Hill is the only section of 441 that's still 2-lane from north of the villages to Mount Dora. So that project rates pretty high on the MPO list, but never high enough for it actually to occur. So that's the only major project that we are currently in line for. With regard to residential development, that is and will continue to be the chief economic driver for our community. It's just the way it is. 1,200 people a day move to Florida. When you look at the statistics for where are they moving, what are the fastest growing counties in the state, okay? Number 1 is Sumter County, okay? Number 6 is Polk County. Number 11 is Lake County. And number 13 is Marion County. So if you just do the numbers, there's 67 counties in Florida. So if you look at those numbers, it means we are in the upper, what is that, 1 out of 6 something, you know, so 20% or better. You could say 15%, somewhere around there is the number. So the people are coming. We have done a realignment, a reevaluation of our comprehensive plan to try to deal with it. You know, when people get up and say, we're not looking at things, we just completed that. We were open for business, we had several meetings here, wanting the public to come and give us their input on those things. And then part of that comprehensive plan, and part of what's the most important, is that it's a introspective look. The departments themselves look at where they are, where they need to be, what are the things we're going to need. So we've just gone through this. To act like we've got our heads in the sand and we're not looking at this growth is just not correct. It's false information that people are peddling. Currently, we have the ability to say yes or say no on any annexation for any type of PUD, be it commercial, be it residential. We have that ability as commissioners. So I'm listening to the people. The people are telling me hey, listen to the people, okay? Half the people are saying it's not good for your businesses. You know, it's not good for business. Not, well, everybody that's in business would seem to be saying that. The rest of the folks that have moved here and live here now, listen, we listen to what you guys have to say. Can you please give us the same? Okay,
Why don't you stand up and identify yourself? You're going to talk like that.
you know, we have the ability to say yes or to say no to any annexation. And I'm not willing to give that up because some people think it's a good idea and others don't. We can say yes or no, and we have both, as a collective group, said yes, and we've collectively said no to annexations. So I'm not in favor of this.
I have one question for the attorney. Grant, is this a legally binding document?
Well, there's flexibility in this document that would not make it binding necessarily. So there is a statement, if you look towards the bottom of the recitals there, it says that, let's see. Just give me 1 second here, I'm
You're good,
sorry.
man.
It says the city commission will consider any application for residential annexation or rezoning during this period. However, outside of extremely compelling circumstances, the city commission wishes to notify applicants of its current position so as to potentially save them time, resources, and expenses. So again, it's not binding. This would not handcuff the commissioners. So the commissioners, if this were to be approved, could still approve a residential annexation if you want to. This is more, the way I view it, is more of a statement to people who would be looking to annex in, that if this were to be approved, that the city is not particularly interested in a purely residential annexation. And as much as anything is sort of broadcasting that information out to those who might incur expenses or time or pour a lot of resources into potentially trying to annex into the city for residential development, to let them know sort of what the current commission's position or perspective is on that, to, you know, again, potentially save them the time and resources, and not bringing something forward that the city is not particularly interested in. But it doesn't bind the city to deny every
So a
residential.
developer could still bring an application before the commission?
That's correct.
Okay, so it just goes back. We already have a legal process in place. What's the point of this? So, thank you, Grant. I
Yes, sir.
respect Commissioner Barry, Commissioner Peterson, and Burry's comments. They're echoed a lot of what I was going to say. So I won't, for the sake of time, go into that, but I appreciate those comments. Any other commission comments? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call.
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Burry,
No.
Commissioner Peterson,
No.
Commissioner Barry,
No.
Mayor Reisman.
No. We're going to move on to section 4. This section is public comments. This section is reserved for members of the public to bring up matters of concern or opportunities of praise. Please note that note that issues raised during this time will not be discussed in detail during the current meeting. They will either be referred to the appropriate staff or scheduled for consideration at a future city commission meeting. Each speaker is allocated 3 minutes to provide their comments. Kindly adhere to this time limit to ensure equal opportunity for all participants and to support the efficient conduct of the meeting. Thank you. Any public comments on any of the agenda items tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public comments. We're going to move to the consent agenda. The routine items are placed on the consent agenda to expedite the meeting. If the commission or staff wish to discuss any item, the procedure is as follows. 1, pull the items for the consent agenda. 2, vote on remaining items with 1 roll call vote. 3, discuss each item pulled and then vote by roll call. Are there any items the commission would like to pull to this evening? Seeing none, Can we make a can I get a motion to approve all the, to approve the consent agenda?
Yeah, motion to approve all items on consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second.
Second.
Roll call or any further discussion? Public comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Mayor Reisman,
Yes.
Mayor,
Say it again. Take a break. Yeah, so we'll before we move into second public hearings, we'll take a short recess, 5 minutes.
She's in the restroom. You know, the other lady was helping her. She was in the restroom. Here she comes.
We're going to call the commission meeting back to order. We're going to move to public hearings and non-routine items. 6A, second readings. If someone would please introduce 6A 1, 2, 3 to be read by title only.
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only.
Thank you, sir.
6A1, an ordinance of the city of Leesburg, Florida, annexing certain real property consisting of approximately 77.5 plus minus acres, being generally located south of County Road 33, west of US Highway 27, and north of County Road 48, lying in sections 14 and 15, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida. Provided that said property so annexed shall be liable for its proportionate share of the existing and future indebtedness of said city, providing that such annexed property shall be subject to all laws and ordinances of said city, as if all such territory had been a part of the city of Leesburg at the time of passage and approval of said laws and ordinances, providing that such annexed territory shall be placed in City Commission District 3 and providing an effective date. 6A2, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the city of Leesburg, changing the future land use map designation of certain real property consisting of approximately 77.5 plus minus acres, being generally located south of County Road 33, west of US Highway 27, and north of County Road 48, lying in sections 14 and 15, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date. 6A3, an ordinance of the city of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 77.5 plus minus acres from Lake County A agriculture to City of Leesburg PUD planned unit development to allow for 235 detached single-family residents, 48 paired villas, plus 120,000 square feet of amenities, medical office, and retail sales and service for property generally located south of County Road 33, west of US Highway 27, and north of County Road 48, lying in sections 14 and 15, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Second. Before we move on, Grant, if you wouldn't mind swearing in anyone who would be speaking this evening.
Mayor, happy to do that. If all members in the audience and city staff would please stand and raise your right hand if you plan to provide any testimony on item 6A3, which is the Leatherleaf PUD rezoning. Please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that all testimony you'll give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right, thank you all. Ready to go, Mr. Mayor.
Any commission comments or discussions on these? Dan? For Dan. Turn this over to you. Oh, did you have a question? You want to turn it over to Dan, then take questions?
Yeah, I mean, I got a question for Dan, but Dan can tell us about it
Yes.
first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dan Miller, Planning and Zoning. This is for the Leatherleaf project. The overall proposal, as Andy stated, 77 acres plus or minus, located north of 48 and south of County Road 33. There's also a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment being requested to change future land use designation from Lake County Regional Commercial to City of Leesburg General Commercial, and a rezoning requesting to amend the current zoning from Lake County A Agriculture to City of Leesburg Planned Unit Development. This is outside the city's electric service area. Under the PUD requirements, there would be 235 detached single-family residences with 48 paired villas. So plus 120,000 square feet of commercial uses. There are no other uses permitted in this proposal. Lot size is 50 and 60 feet for the single-family units, 60 feet for the duplex units. Front setbacks 25 feet. Lot depth's 120 feet. These are our standards that we've been using for some time. House sizes are 1,600 and 1,700 square feet for each respective lot size, and 1,300 square feet on the duplex units. That's 1,300 square feet for each side. Minimum 2 off-street parking spaces for each unit and 2 floors maximum height. There would be approximately 6 acres devoted to commercial enterprises along County Road 48, which would include space for a restaurant, offices, and basically a maximum of 120,000 square feet of those types of uses, which would be adjacent to the main entrance on County Road 48. There are design and architectural standards. I believe there's some facades in the packet. Dark sky lighting is required, trees required in each individual yard, 35% open space, the usual standards we use in our planned unit developments. There's also a 25-foot landscape buffer all the way around the entirety of the property boundaries with a fence required on any area not adjacent to an existing wetland or preserved area. There are sidewalks required, but Bermuda grass is permitted. There are main access points that all have to be boulevard type roadways, which has a landscape median of 8 feet in the middle, with enough lane width area to allow for emergency vehicles to maneuver around if one side is blocked. There'd be 1.3 acres of recreation space, which would allow for a swimming pool, playground, dog parks, gazebo, et cetera. And finally, there is the phasing clause, which is in each PUD, which if substantial commencement does not occur within 48 months, 4 years, then the property would have an automatic reversion to the RE1 zoning standards, which is 1 acre per unit. I believe Mr. Michael Rankin of LPG in Mount Dora is here, and Mr. Logan Opsol from Lowndes, Dostrick, Cantor, and Reed as well. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm on page 320 with the comments from Lake County, the Department of Public Works Engineering Division.
Okay.
And they're saying that that they have to do something with Haywood Worm Farm Road, that northern section of it, but this doesn't, they just butt up to it. They're not going to be using that road for any other purpose. Is that correct?
They butt up to Haywood Worm Farm Road, but I believe there would be an emergency access or either emergency or full access at that point. It depends on the final design.
So they did have requirements. I mean, they're asking
Yes, sir.
for an upgrade to that road to meet the
Yes,
road
sir.
standards of Leesburg.
Yes, sir.
I was just curious about that. And then they also, the turn lanes, but they did say they would like to see a traffic impact analysis is recommended to be provided and reviewed prior to the PUD hearing. Did we get did
Yes.
that occur?
Yes, we have that. That is done. We coordinate with Lake County extensively,
Mhm.
particularly with their Public Works Department. Lake County Public Works did have some significant comments in regard to County Road 48 and 33. In each of those cases, they were talking about left and right turn lanes, additional right-of-way, additional area for the trail, the
Right.
Lake County Trail. I forget the exact name that goes through there. So there was a significant amount of coordination that goes on with them. And Lake County did ask for quite a bit of extra land in order to make
4-lane,
4
48.
lanes. And they are aware.
Is that both for 33 and for 48?
I only know about that for 48. I do not see that in here for 33.
Okay. And then the traffic study said the road's fine?
Yes, sir. There's always a lot of confusion on that. Basically, what a traffic study is saying is, does this development degrade a roadway to a lower level of service? And what I mean by levels of service in transportation planning, and keep in mind, I'm not a transportation planner, that's the whole science. But it's basically A through E, A, B, C, D, E, F, A through F. And it's like grades in school. So if you have a level of service C on a road and that new development does not degrade it to a D, that's what they mean by no impact.
But Dan, that's just going to, what they're proposing is just a turn decel lane. They're not talking about, they're not gonna widen.
Yeah, in here it says something about.
They're gonna widen the whole road, that 1.1 mile strip. No, I didn't think that.
Leave property for a road.
They're talking about
Well, for
the,
that portion of
this-
that subdivision.
yes, sir.
But you've already got, major problems already. I don't think just that one portion of that road. Why didn't the county, this will be the third development that's been approved on this 1.1 mile stretch in the last 6 or 8 months. Did the county get right away on these other two developments?
Yes, sir.
They did.
Yes, sir.
But they still don't have it from one end to the other. They got enough right of way to put decel lanes or turn lanes into these developments, but not to make the road a 4-lane road.
You cannot request from a development anything that's outside the contiguous property line.
Well, exactly. Yes, I understand the
so
development. I understand you couldn't require the development to go out and acquire
Correct.
property from somebody else. But did they give enough property to the county, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge,
To make this a 4-lane road across the front of their property, or just enough to make it a turn lane, decel lane into their property?
to my knowledge, the county had very similar comments on every development along that roadway.
Says
So that
additional-
they would widen it in that same manner as this one.
In here it says, County Road 48, additional right-of-way for County Road 48 to accommodate site road and right-of-way improvements and accommodate future 4-lane of County Road 48,
Mhm.
along with the trail. So even
Yes, sir.
that also.
The county's been very specific on these, and which is good. That's.
Well, I understand that, and it is a good thing, but when you've got 3 developments or potentially third development being approved tonight on this 1.1 mile stretch, and you only have enough right of way that fronts on those 3 pieces of property, what good does it really do you? You can't make it 4-lane, 2-lane, 4-lane, 2-lane. You still got a 2-lane road run through there for years until the county gets the rest of that right of way. It doesn't help the situation presently with these potentially third development on that road
Yes, sir. I
anytime in the
understand.
future.
I understand.
I have a question, please. So when they do the traffic study, is it considered what's already been approved before? I guess that's what you're asking as well. So it's not just this development. What about the previous development that we've?
Correct. And again, I'm not a traffic expert.
Okay.
Okay, but they are taking into account everything that's been approved up to that point. So if something came in after this one, yeah, they wouldn't know about it once this one came in. They would have the work done on the traffic study for every development up to the point of this one.
Okay.
So if anything
this
else were
is
to
the
come in,
last-
no, I wouldn't include it.
If this is the last development on this stretch of the land, it's already including all of the others. that-
Unless something comes in tomorrow.
No, I mean, from the others that have been approved.
Yes,
This
ma'am.
particular study is including those that have been approved in the stretch.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure. Thank you.
Comments to the commission? We'll open it for public comments. You would please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes. Mr. Napa, looks like it's turned off. There you go. All right.
Okay.
We'll restart your time real quick.
That's all right. Yeah, I'm going to need it all. As a resident of Leesburg who lives close to this section of road, I suggest you do not approve this PUD, which would add to an already overburdened stretch of road. A year and a half ago, I published my first video about the dangers of this mile stretch of road, and it has gotten only worse since. I took a photo at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and there were 22 cars backed up at the 27 light. With the other two developments you approved last year on this road, the three would add 750 residences with about 1,500 new vehicles and 7,500 car trips per day. In addition, you also approved an apartment complex just east of the turnpike on Route 470, which is also going to add traffic to this area. You invited the villages to build thousands of homes in Leesburg, and you do nothing to facilitate these residents coming into Leesburg and becoming part of the community. A villager posted these exact words on one of my videos about this stretch of road. Thank you for the update and for your efforts to get as much information as possible. Those of us in Newell, Lake Denham, and Dabney, and of course the Enclave, which are all part of the villages of Westlake, have a vested interest in what will be done with 470, especially access to Leesburg. Al, you need to get your checkbook ready. In an email on February 4th by Kirby Smith to Fred Schneider, Assistant County Manager, he asked, is there anything we can do to make Leesburg redo this road at their cost? If they're taking a road from a C to an F grade, would that trigger something? The widening of this road is on the MPO list on their website. In 2024, it was ranked 13th. This year, 2025, it's dropping to 15th. So nothing's going to ever happen with this section of road. I asked why it's dropping to 15th, because they shoved in two projects in Sumter County ahead of it. It is not yet funded, and the likelihood that it will be funded is about 5 years if we're lucky. We can't not deal with the consequences for that long. The cost of widening this stretch of 1.1 mile stretch of road is estimated to be between $15 and $20 million. I recently learned that County Road 470 will be widened to 4 lanes by the villages up to Megason Road. It's being paid for by using transportation impact fee credits. And this has already begun. So there's going to be more traffic coming into this area. If this is like 466A in Fruitland Park, it could take many years for this expansion to be extended to Route 27. At the last MPO meeting, I mentioned this before, we're $127 million short for the next 5-year period versus the last 5 years. This annexation needs to be delayed until the County Road 48 can handle it so that not an even more dangerous situation is not created by careless and unbridled development. Moreover, your own planning commission rejected the annexation 4-2. You need to listen to the people you appoint to that commission, or else what is its purpose? You need to do what is right for the existing residents of Leesburg who voted you into office, not what is right for developers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comments? Seeing none. Dan, I had a question. Do we know when they're going to be upgrading that intersection at 48 and 33? Do we have a time limit on that? 26, 27?
With the plans that you're looking at, were in my presentation, 26, 27
Okay.
timeframe. And that would be with county, I think they were looking at general fund monies from the county for that, not impact fees.
Thank you. Would developer like to state anything this evening?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the commission, audience. For the record, Mike Rankin, representing Holiday Foliage, Inc. With me tonight is Chris Walsh with the Walsh Traffic Engineers, Loden's Law, be Logan Opsal of Council. And I'm asking tonight for the approval of what staff's recommendations are. We do agree with the items within the PUD. There are several items, and due to the length of the evening, I'll be brief with my comments and yield any time that you may need to ask either a traffic engineer or attorney. And I do know that the county does seek right away for new developments, especially along this corridor. So respectfully, how we're going to get that road widened is to see additional development along that road. I'll end my comments there, Mayor.
Any more public comments? Seeing none, we'll close it. Turn it back to the commission. Oh, you had a comment? Sorry.
Yeah, just very briefly. Appreciate the introduction, Logan Opsal, Lowndes Law Firm. Just wanted to point out a couple quick things, and again, we'll stand for specific questions. And thanks to the applicant team for being here. What's being proposed, of course, for the annexation and comp plan and rezoning The property's located within the interlocal service boundary areas, the ISBA. Your staff report notes the request for annexation deals with wanting to avail this property to the process, procedures, and requirements of the city. This project offers about 35% of open space. We appreciate your staff. This has been a collaborative effort. Dan mentioned, working with us, also working with the county on these issues that you bring up. We've redesigned this project to allow for wider lot sizes, but I think what's important to note here is this is a mixed-use project being proposed. I have heard noted several times, both in public comment from Planning Commission and other meetings, as well from this body, the need for commercial in the city and in this area. 6+ acres of commercial component being proposed with supporting residential on the back. And again, I just wanted to point out the collaborative effort that's gone into this plan. Again, noting those wider lot sizes. Of the 77 acres, just about half is actually going to be developed. That's okay. So that's accounting for open space, green area, wetlands, things like that. So all of that, of the 77.5 acres, only about half is being developed, of which 6+ acres for the commercial. Again, a needed use within the city in this area. So I wanted to point those things out, and I'm happy to answer any specific questions all of the applicant team is. Thank you for your time.
Any questions for the applicants? Seeing none. All right, we'll close public comments. We'll turn it back to the commission. Any?
Yeah, I do have a couple.
Yes, sir.
As I said, this would be, if this gets approved tonight, this would be the third development that's been approved on that 1.1 stretch of road, probably in the last 9 months. Yeah, I know I've heard some discussion tonight. The county's going to put a turn lane or two into 33 and 48, and the developers are, I guess, voluntarily giving the county some right of way along the frontage of their property. But none of that's happening overnight, and the county doesn't have the right of way down that 1.1 to widen this road. I just don't. I would say once the improvements are made to this road, absolutely bring this project on. I just think it's premature to bring it online now on this 2-lane road and still with a bad intersection. And the commercial development, I think everybody on this commission knows I strongly support commercial development, but to be quite honest with you, this is not a great location for 6 acres of commercial development on a 2-lane road that's already congested. And then we're going to put 6 acres of commercial development onto it. It's absolutely horrible. I just think it's a terrible location for commercial development, and I support major commercial development. So I think this project, I think, ought to be turned down tonight for annexation until that road system's improved and it can handle the additional residential lots and it can handle the 6 acres of commercial development that's going to bring additional traffic already onto an existing bad road we have now.
Any other commissioner comments?
Excuse me. I've been under the weather, so I apologize. Al, as I look at one of your maps, it looked like this road is to be widened. Is that just error? I'm misreading the map here. I'm looking at 470 coming across. Looks like it goes on this map all the way to 27. Am I wrong?
I'm not sure, Dan.
Page 11. Okay. I thought earlier someone said it was not even on the 5-year plan. I thought somewhere I heard like 25, 26 or 26, 27. I'm fine. Okay. At least on the radar, at least.
So there's no further comments. We'll go to roll call on 6A1.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry? Yes. Commissioner Connell?
No.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Mayor Reesman?
Yes. Roll call on 6A2.
Need a motion.
Oh, we need a motion to approve. Sorry.
Motion to approve 6A2.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Public comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Commissioner Connell,
No, the density's too high.
Commissioner Murray,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Mayor Reesman.
Yes. Would someone please make a motion for 6A3?
Motion to approve 6A3.
We need a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Seeing none. Public comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Commissioner Connell,
No.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Mayor Reesman.
Yes. Would someone please introduce 6A4?
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, establishing new district boundaries based on the American Census Survey produced by the U.S. Census Bureau and other information in order to create districts which are reasonably compact and roughly equivalent in population, establishing a schedule for the election of commissioners from the various new districts, providing a savings clause, providing conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Public comments? Public comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Mayor Reesman.
Yes. Would someone please introduce 6B1?
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, adding a PDO, Planned Development Overlay, to the existing R1A Single Family Residential Zoning on approximately 16.22 plus minus acres to allow for agricultural uses for property generally located east of number 2 road, and south of County Road 48, lying in section 17, Township 20 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date,
This is first reading, so it will lay over till
April 28th.
April 28th. Dan, do you want to give a quick overview?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a plan development overlay. Remember, that's just an overlay that adds a use or two to an existing zoning. 16.2 acres. It's located on the south side of County Road 48 and the east side of number 2 road. In this particular location, in this particular circumstance, agricultural uses are compatible with the surrounding uses and do not propose a detriment or create a nuisance for the surrounding properties. Mr. John McGee is here. If you have any questions, it's simply to allow simple agricultural use of growing hay, growing chickens, fowl, animals, whatever. Not a problem for us.
Any questions for Dan from the commission? Any questions for the applicant? Would the applicant like to say anything? You're good? Okay. Any public comments? Seeing none? Well, this will lay over till April 28th. We'll move on to 6C, non-routine items. We have none. 7, informational reports. We have none. City attorney items.
No items this evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. Item 9, city manager items.
No items for
No items tonight. All right, roll call.
Tonight.
Commissioner Berry, actually, I have one, and it's really short, please. It's
You're
just
good.
my summary from at the Florida League of Cities at Legislation Days. If I could have if I could have, the city clerk to record these as in the minutes. It's just the actual statements of the bills that were in
Okay.
concern. And then I'm just saying, I can read it. It just says, attending this year's legislative action days was incredibly important for me as a first-term commissioner, especially as I approach my final year before considering the next election cycle. It was essential to understand the legislative priorities under the new administration and understand the results of how our community will be impacted. One of the most valuable aspects of my attendance was the opportunity to engage directly with legislators and discuss the potential of these bills. With several proposals aimed at eliminating critical services that entire cities rely on, I found it alarming to consider the long-term consequences for our residents. Having these conversations enabled me to advocate for policies that genuinely serve our communities and ensure that local governments have the necessary resources to function effectively. Overall, this experience reinforced the importance of staying informed and involved in the legislative process. It was a privilege to represent my community and work toward solutions that support the well-being of all of our citizens in Leesburg. Respectfully submitted, Commissioner Allison Berry. And it's just a list of the proposed, a few of the ones that really affect our area, which was on our agenda, um, 2 meetings
Two meetings
before.
ago.
Yeah. So just a list, and I can pass out to each one of you to have. You come out.
Thank you, Commissioner Barry, for going up there and representing us.
That's it for me.
Yeah, you can go. She's done.
Commissioner Cornell?
Yes, I have one thing. There was a statement released middle part last week from the city manager concerning the city's stance on this resolution that was proposed and voted on earlier tonight. And the stance was recommended of denial. I wasn't sure why the city manager felt like he needed to weigh in on such a controversial decision in the middle of the week. So I did speak with him. The conversation was that he was basically given a directive from the commission to release a statement. My question was, how are you given a statement or a directive when we have not had a commission meeting? Um, I'm going to assume he's polled commissioners and got 3 votes to go on record to make a public statement, which I find to be completely out of line, unprofessional, and borderline unethical. I'd like to know tonight, what commissioners did he speak with and get a positive vote, if you will, to move forward to release a public statement on the city's stance on this resolution? Can I see a raise of hands on what commissioners were spoke to about this?
I think that response is, out of line. I think the city manager talks to all of us. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, he did not include me in this conversation. Commissioner Barry, were you included?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Did the city manager call you last week and ask you where you stood on this resolution? And before he released a public comment on the city's stance on him recommending a denial on the vote, did he speak to you? Okay, so he didn't speak to me. He didn't speak to you. He spoke to Commissioner Burry here. What other commissioners did he speak to?
I speak to Al about so many issues.
Okay, so he spoke to you too, Commissioner.
I said, I don't know. I don't know.
You don't recall?
Don't recall. Sorry.
Really? From 5 days ago?
I talked to Al quite a bit about a lot of
Spoke with
matters.
the city manager about this multiple times and.
Okay, so he spoke to 2, and I'm gonna guess he spoke to Commissioner Peterson about it. He left myself and yourself, Commissioner Barry, out of the conversation. Did he call you last week and ask you which way you stood on the resolution? Commissioner Barry? Okay, so he didn't call me and he didn't call you. He called these 3 commissioners and formed a consensus to go on record. Now, I don't know about you, Commissioner Barry. I find it extremely offensive, unprofessional, and lack of respect that me or you were not involved in this conversation. He only consulted 3 of the commissioners and not myself or you to go on record. I'm not sure why he even felt like he needed to go on record, but I think you ought to take a look at this too, because he left you out of the conversation also.
Sorry, I'm not even sure what the conversation is referencing, so I'm gonna say no.
Okay, he went on record and made a statement publicly to the Daily Commercial
Oh,
that
okay.
he was proposing to vote against this resolution tonight. I question why he felt the need to go on record to make that statement publicly. I was informed by him that he was given a directive by the commission. I question how he was given a directive when we had no meeting. So I'm polling, if you will, tonight in a public meeting, which is okay to poll in a public meeting, to find out what commissioners gave him this directive. He did not speak to me, and I'm getting it. He did not speak to you. He spoke to the other 3 commissioners, left me and you out of that conversation. For an FYI, I want you to know that me and you were apparently out of the loop when it comes to decisions the city manager wants to make. He's not consulting with us.
So I think that's his professional opinion, and I could say the same thing about you, Commissioner Connell. You asked for a resolution to be put on the table without having any prior discussion with the commissioners.
I don't have to get permission.
You don't, like,
from-
there should have been public and
No,
more
there should not
discussion
have,
at
Alan.
workshop.
There should have not been. It went on to the agenda for discussion. What the city manager
Could
did
have easily had a
was
workshop
without
prior.
discussion. There's a difference there.
Mr. Commissioner, would we be having this discussion if I made a recommendation to vote for?
Yes, I strongly believe that you,
that my
before you make any recommendation, all the
strongly
all the
have said-
commissioners should be consulted before you go on record to make a public announcement of
Isn't
one way
there-
or the
isn't
other.
there a staff recommendation on every issue that comes?
I
before the
don't,
commission?
on something like this out, the staff recommendation. you're not-
Doesn't Dan
you're
Miller's
not going,
office
does
give
Dan's
a
not going to the,
Hey,
Dan's
we're
not
not
going to
gonna
the
have
daily
a debate
commercial
back.
to
Commissioner-
make a statement. He's
Commissioner
putting
Canal.
a staff memo out.
We're not
You
gonna
could
have
have
a
put a
scream
staff
back.
memo out. You chose to go to the daily commercial. There is a difference.
When did you talk to the daily commercial?
I read it in the daily commercial.
Friday.
Yeah.
When did my staff report come out?
I don't know.
Because you didn't read the packet,
Well,
which
because-
comes out on Wednesday.
No, I know when the packet came out. You actually emailed the thing out Friday night. Actually, it was 30 minutes after the conversation I had
No,
with
I
you.
mailed out my presentation.
The presentation.
Yeah, exactly. The presentation came out 30 minutes
Staff-
after I had
staff-
this
staff
conversation with you,
The staff recommendation came. out
which I thought
Wednesday-
was coincidental.
Wednesday when the.
I
agenda
made
packet
my
came out.
point.
Okay.
Can I make my point, Mr. Mayor? So the commissioner accused me of polling the commission, which I think needs to be responded to. As your city manager, I have a responsibility to make recommendations on things that are controversial and non-controversial. And that's what I did. Did I consult the Commissioner Cannell prior to making my recommendation? No. Did I talk with Commissioner Cannell? Yeah, I obviously did because he asked me to put the item on the agenda. As news came out, each and every one of you talked to me about this topic. Each and every one of you expressed opinions to me about where you stood or had questions about this matter. 2 of you directly told me to have a presentation about data on growth. That I did. That's what I did. I did not poll the city commission. I was not a conduit to the sunshine. I did my job. I'm sorry that the commissioner didn't like how I did my job. I'm sorry that the commissioner didn't like my recommendation. I find it ironic and would bet that we would have never had this conversation had I made a recommendation the other way.
Don't assume, Al. You know what that means. And I would also, again, Commissioner Barry, you were not involved or privy to any conversation with the city manager concerning before he did that either. So I just want to make sure you're aware. Me and you were outside the loop here. Apparently there's 3 commissioners running the show and me and you are just here for just purposes to have a quorum.
That's it.
Commissioner Burry,
Yeah, I don't have anything tonight.
Mayor Reeson.
Couple things. Just wanted to make sure you guys know that the chamber breakfast is on April 24th here at 7 a.m. And then obviously the end of the month is Bike Fest, April 25th and 26th and 27th. I want to say a huge shout out to all of our staff and the different departments who will assist with prepping and the aftermath of Bike Fest, and all the other agencies from around the county and surrounding counties who come in and assist us. I know we're greatly appreciated to that. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.